Today's meeting was brought together as an emergency to make everybody aware that Anna is going to be attending our Tuesday night meeting this coming Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Me and a few other coordinators have orchestrated this together to go over some things. And with that, I yield to Antonio.
None of us wanted to be coordinators, but the reason why we stood up. 1, our General Assembly unlawfully had no voice. 2, our Assembly has not offered any progress or solutions for the North Carolinians since its inception. 3, no member orientation or organization or proper education to welcome people home. No love being shown in the Assembly. A, we were yelled at and told to self-govern. B, no leadership to teach. C, no constructive or responsible help or remedy. We realize that everyone is learning and that we are building this new government from scratch. Hours of research and studies are required. In the beginning, it is easy to experience a lot of misunderstanding and confusion when walking out of the seed and the matrix of lies back onto the land, soil, and the truth. There is no reason to blame anyone or complain, condemn, or criticize anyone. We are standing up after a lot of studying work to seek our own remedy and our own relief, and we will feel good not to be able to help lead our state, assemble men, and help everyone move forward. This is a course correction required to be successful and consider our current state of emergency. We were asked by the Federation not to delay our efforts to jump in and help. We wanted to start first by emphasizing that we are here to course correct our assembly, which is unlawfully took the voice of the General Assembly away. With that, I yield to Rohit.
Good morning. There's a division in our state, but we've created the ability of the people to speak, and hopefully this group now will come and do that. It's not our tradition to operate under corporate bureaucracy and an agenda that's planned by other people. We need to be risk takers and visionaries. These creators operate with great love and grace and work hard to do their research. There's no room for corporate mindedness and a corporate agenda. We will be resetting all of the elected positions since none of our elections were lawfully conducted. You cannot have lawful elections when General Assembly has no voice. There are things we will discuss in the weeks to come, but right now we need to focus on the task at hand, which involves relief for the people and properties in Western North Carolina, Americans and non-Americans alike. We are only the government that is lawfully recognized on the state. Our mission is to protect the people and their assets, physically, morally, materially. We are going to conduct a list of meetings for the various committees, and those lists will be published in the newsletter daily. We need you all to check your emails and make sure that it doesn't go to spam and that you're able to get all the emails. Everyone is invited to all the committee meetings, and you are invited to watch all the replays. All the work is done in the committees, so our coordination will be focused on more constructive committee meetings. We will have General Assembly meetings once a month where all committees will give their reports and where they are. There's a lot of work to be done, so jump into any committee or various committees and watch the replays if you cannot attend. You cannot get it wrong, and the more time you spend helping the committees, the more you will learn. I'll yield to Anthony.
Thank you, Rohi. Anna's wants us to set up a new assembly composed of those North Carolinians who are done with evil. She is coming to clearly state the issues and then host an organizational meeting. She wants to meet with a committee of a whole. Everyone is invited. Everyone should come without fear of Dominic or Cynthia. We need to get a militia assembly, general assembly, and an international business assembly organized as soon as possible, and the rest of our 4 pillars. But before that, we must get the General Assembly in order. We want to know who's interested in the truth and getting the work done. We only operate by under 2 rules. The 1599 Geneva's Bible, therefore, whatsoever ye would then operate the work done. We only operate by under 2 rules. The Anna's wants us to set up a new assembly composed of those North Carolinians who are done with evil. She is coming to clearly state the issues and then host an organizational meeting. She wants to meet with a committee of a whole. Everyone is invited. Everyone should come without fear of Dominic or Cynthia. We need to get a militia assembly, general assembly, and an international business assembly organized as soon as possible, and the rest of our 4 pillars. But before that, we must get the General Assembly in order. Who's in the truth and getting the work done. Don't operate by 2 rules. 1590 Geneva's Bible. Whoever ye would do. We will no longer tolerate gossip to prevail on the assembly. If you want to talk about someone, make sure you have met them and spoken to them and have a relationship with them. Otherwise, do not speak their names in vain. If you think someone is doing something wrong and you do not go directly to them, do not talk about your opinion about them. Please see the examples of gossip.
Amazon hates this, but there's nothing they can do to stop it. There's a new electric lighter out there, and it's got the firepower of a...
Make it clear to everyone. Everybody see? Let me make sure these are on the... Where'd it go? Right here. There. Give you a prime example. This came from John Michael. You are sick and an evil woman. You will be exposed. And so will those demons working with you. Burn in hell, witch. Responses like this are completely unnecessary. I don't even know why someone would conceivably think to write something like this to somebody.
Not when it's true and you're doing a coup. What the heck is going on here? You shouldn't even belong there. This isn't a rightful meeting. This is a takeover of infiltrators. Cut it out, Anthony. What are you doing?
That's not true. Listen, please listen and then understand.
Anthony, you're muted.
Here's some more examples. I need to minimize this so I can see the screen.
Yeah, start at the top.
Gotcha. John Perry on Telegram wrote this. I'm seeing a lot that's trying to overthrow the assemblies and eject and trying to get the 4 pillars stood up. In fact, I've seen some not following or going by their state assembly guidelines or handbook. From what I've seen and I witness, it's all about control. These disruptors do not follow the decorum of these meetings, especially when there is a General Assembly meeting, which is for reporting, for committee processes and voting. Only if there are any discrepancies, disagreements, or objections should be sent straight back to the committees and for that pillar and not on the floor of the General Assembly. What happens when you have 2, 5, 10, 20,000 plus men and women in the General Assembly? Then what? I will always tell everyone to go back and read Anna's articles, watch her videos, her posts, recording meetings, read her book that she has published. If they spend more time working on getting the 4 pillars and courts up running than arguing, complaining, condemning, and to conspire against one another, they would accomplish a whole lot more. Yes, we're going to have challenges with these committees. I see a lot of states trying to give advice to other states when in fact, they have no problems than others. I will only take advice from the state coordinators, my state marshal at arms, Anna, Lisa Schaefer on Ohio. I sit in a lot of meetings, not only on my state, but other states as well, to learn as much as I can possibly can on the pros and cons and other progress of which they are trying to attain in setting up the 4 pillars with our courts. I sit back and keep my mouth shut. I watch, learn, and listen. So basically, we're all learning this together at the same time. We're all trying to achieve the objective, which is the best for our own state. Again, thank you for the advice and your opinion. Peace and blessings. Where this is a good statement, where you're only taking advice from select individuals, that's not what we should be doing. We should be taking advice from all of us at a collective whole who are actually learning as we go. Otherwise, it's consolidated to hearsay at that point. Not everybody's going to be correct. We all have to band together and come together and discuss the things that need to be discussed.
May
So
I?
Anthony, may I?
No.
Okay, I want to go on record to say I object. Stop. Stop muting me and take my voice away. Kick me out. Kick me out. You're taking my voice. I thought you were greater than that. I'm ejecting.
Please take the moment to stop interrupting this meeting,
Why?
because we are trying to hash out this information so that everybody knows that we're all on
No,
the same page.
you're putting us on trial. You're doing exactly what you're accusing everybody of.
I am not putting anybody on trial, and I'm
You
not
and the rest
accusing
are-
anybody
this
of
is-
anything.
This
This
is
clear
are
evidence.
you kidding me? This is a trial, and you are putting
is
us all
not a
on trial,
trial.
and you're
And it's-
saying exactly what you think you're griping about doing.
That's enough.
This is all
May
public
I?
information. This is all public information, what he's saying. Why don't everybody just want to listen and understand first before you jump to conclusions?
Thank you.
Let him have his say.
I appreciate
May
that.
I?
Let me continue, please. We can clearly see in these Telegram messages between select individuals that a lot of gossip is going on. Unnecessary gossip.
It's true.
I'm just simply going to scroll and let you kind of glance at them, because I'm not going to sit here and read them. Something saying like voodoo and high priestess this and somebody's BS and blah, blah, blah. Everybody's entitled to their opinions, and we get that. But that's not why we're here.
Yeah, the coup. You're doing a coup. That's what you're
We're
doing.
not doing a coup. That is what you've been told by several individuals. This is not a
by
coup.
anybody. We know.
This is not a,
Please let them please let them speak. Just let them
Thank you.
finish.
this is not
I
a
don't
coup.
want you. We didn't vote him to do this.
I
He's not
understand.
even a
They've
coordinator.
been vetted by
We've been vetted by
Anna.
the Federation, and this is why we're having this meeting today. We
Just
are
let them finish,
coordinated.
please.
Let him
I
speak.
don't
Let him
care.
speak. Let him speak.
Nope.
We
Nope.
understand a lot of you are going to be upset and frustrated based on all the lies that you've been enduring for the last several months. Heck, maybe even over a year. But this is why we're doing this. If you are here to prevent a vote, you're wasting your time. Today is not about voting anything. Today is about resetting, coming together, and making sure everyone is okay on the same page after being hit by a natural disaster. This isn't
You're
a one-man or
crazy.
one-woman power
You're
show.
doing this as a coup. You're such a liar, Anthony.
Let
What
him
are you
finish,
doing?
please. Let them finish. Just let them finish.
May I?
One moment, please, and allow me to finish. And then we will allow y'all to speak. We understand people are frustrated, but we all need to be on the same page.
We don't like being lied to.
Neither do we. This is why we've stepped up.
No, you're the one lying.
No, I am not lying. I have
Yes,
yet
you
to lie.
are.
Please let
Every
them
time
finish.
you're in there, you present.
That's enough.
You
Thank
don't tell me that.
Please
The
let them
high
finish.
priestess has spoken, y'all. That's enough.
Just let them finish. Please.
Anthony, continue on, Anthony.
Yes, I will. This isn't a one-man or one-woman power show. We reached out to each other and came together as living men and women should. Just because someone is on a break doesn't mean the General Assembly needs to stop. Why would you want to stop? Ask yourself that question. As a group, we come together with a few things to review, and we'll take turns.
Dominic
with you guys.
has been on a break. He's been working.
Let's go.
Please keep in mind, and in your prayers, a few of our new coordinators are dealing with family events and are still trying to attend this meeting after we've told them to focus on family.
And that we didn't vote for.
Coordinators,
Coordinators are volunteers and do not need to be voted upon. Let's make that perfectly clear now. We were lied to about that. This is why we've stepped up as coordinators, and we are coordinators. We have been backed and approved by the Federation. This is why Anna has approved this emergency meeting. This is why Anna is coming on Tuesday to speak to all of us so that we can have a reset. We haven't lied about anything.
Oh, so
Anna, stop. Anna has actually come to us and waited for us to step up because she has seen all the lies, the deceit, and the bad decorum.
You're so full of it.
No,
How
I'm not.
could you sit there and lie?
We've got email
and then
messages. We've got email
Excuse
messages.
me.
Excuse
Let
you.
Watch your
everybody
mouth,
finish.
Donna.
Please let them finish. Just
Watch
please
your
let
mouth.
them finish.
Let him finish. Let him finish. We grown. Let's speak. Let him finish.
Yeah, let's try to be adults, please, and stop being rude.
Well,
I'm not here to lie. I mean, I had to endure
Let
reading.
them finish, please.
I had
5
to
months.
endure reading.
Keep muting me, Neathy. Go ahead. You like that button.
See what I mean? This is not how we should be acting, people.
This is how you guys
Totally
acted for
uncalled for.
5 months.
This is totally uncalled for.
Anthony, continue, please.
Yeah, Anthony, please continue, and please let him speak. If you want to have both sides speak, let him speak.
Yeah, I will. But I had to endure several emails making false accusations towards me, saying that I'm making statements in a podcast and a bunch of stuff when I haven't even had time to do all that. I've been taking care of my own personal family issues. Hell, let me make it clear to all of you, I've been living at a hotel for the last 6 months, still doing all this work as a volunteer. So for everybody to come in here and say all these negative and evil things is just astonishing to me. And this is why Anna has actually stepped in and coming in.
This is a takeover.
This is not a takeover. 5 people coordinating together to make sure everybody is operating in love and harmony. That's why we're here. We're here to make peace. With that, I yield to all those that need to speak. By all means, speak. But be grateful and respectful amongst each other. That's all I ask.
We are, but you're the one who did the takeover. We didn't.
Why does she keep saying a takeover? This has all been said by Anna. So are you saying that you don't want to go by what Anna says? That's what gets me. You keep saying takeover. Who's taking over when Anna vetted them?
I don't.
They were not
Are you
voted
calling?
in by
Are you?
Excuse me.
Hold on. There's
Hold
people
it.
that have their hands raised. Hold on.
Hold on. I just literally put everybody on mute. So start over from there.
Anthony,
There-
please call on the people that have their hands raised.
Okay, I'm going to start with Karen Doyle. You may speak first, and then we will proceed forward. Make sure you advise everybody that you've yielded from your statements.
I'm from Fayette, from North Carolina, from Cumberland County. This is not right. The people did not vote these coordinators in. You have lied to Anna. Dominic has been busting his behind, making sure all of us are safe. And he and Joe McDougal have been getting supplies to people in need. This is a takeover. Anna has believed your lies. And I will not be a part of this You can count me out. You will not get my support. There, you're lying and you're claiming the same things against us that you are doing. This place cannot go forward with you guys in charge. Every time you've been on, you create dissension. You are the instigators. You are the infiltrators. And Anna has fallen for you, but you've been lying to her. Needy, what have you been doing to help the people? You're the farm queen. What are you doing to help people? And you guys don't come up here judging us. I'm done.
It still won't solve it because it has to be a condition of the heart. I've seen Dominic. I've worked close to Dominic for more than 2 years. And I haven't seen what you all are saying. And you might think I'm new, but I've been here. And you know what? If someone says Neethi did, and I don't really know, I've been to Neethi's place, I've been to their meetings, forgive them. Neethi, if Dominic's done something to you, or someone's, forgive them. Because life is too short. Things are going on. Obviously, North Carolina is a very powerful principality that there are some people with some very malicious intent to harm people. That's what we need to be focused on. This is a distraction.
Thank you for that.
May I?
We're going in order. If you'd like to speak, go ahead and raise your hand, please. And I'd like
been raised.
Okay, no, it's not.
I'd like everybody to know that this meeting will probably adjourn at 10. So let's try to keep our points pretty short and quick. Because we all have things we got to do today.
Well, keep it to 2
going
minutes.
Forward, we'll try to get as much out as we can. And if we need to get more out as the meetings proceed, that's fine. But we all need to get it out. Joe McDoodle, go ahead.
I need everybody to know that I object to these proceedings. This whole time we have been working to supply to those North Carolinians that have been in trouble. And I am so ashamed that we as a group could not work together to bring food, supplies for those in the Western area. Rather, we come to something like this. This is pure embarrassing for the state of North Carolina, and I object to everything that you all are doing. I yield.
Thank you, Joe. John and Jeanette Scardina.
I just want to go on the record now that we're recording to say that I object to this. I object to everything about this. I stand by my statements that I have personally witnessed the evil that you, Anthony Hill, and you, Neethi Bailey, and others have done on the international stage, on the podcast, and in our assembly. And I will fight with my last breath against evil. And you can believe that. I yield.
Thank you for those kind words.
You're damn right.
Antonio?
Peace. I come in just to say a couple of things, nothing dealing with ego or flesh, because I'm a spiritual person first. And all I see is everybody going back and forth, dealing with ego and emotions. And the key thing about when you're doing business and you're trying to stand a state up or you're trying to help your nation, it don't have nothing to do with ego. Ego will always pertain to fighting, fussing, arguing, and self. We ain't here to do that. We're here to get back what the bricks took from us. To stand our state up, to be free, have a freedom of speech, and everybody work together with their gifts. Everybody that's been accusing each other, you know the names, you see the text. Y'all need to get over it. Y'all acting like kids. We all need to grow up and be adults, because I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for standing as a real person, a living man. Don't have no drama with nobody. I like Dominic. I like Cynthia. I like the Scardinas. I like everybody. But everybody got a little things that they need to work on as far as dealing with self. And that's one thing I'm a big advocate of, self. If I say something, it's because I have went down that lane to correct myself and to be a better person that God created me to be a person that stand on standards, that stand on loyalty, that stands on doing the right things when nobody's around. Like that's the type of guy I am. So the stuff that's going on in this assembly that I've been in since February of this year is heartbreaking to me. I came back on my land to help, to assist, to comfort, and bring an army of people like myself to this assembly. It's hard for me to bring people to assembly when we can't even get past the small talk. We can't even get past this person want to be in this position. This person want to be in that position. This person want to talk about this person. Bull job at the end of the day. All y'all need to grow up. Y'all need to quit going back and forth with each other. A lot of y'all old enough to be my great grandma, and y'all going back and forth, something that my 21-year-old, my 10-year-old do at the house. We have to grow up, people. It ain't about honor. It ain't about this assembly. It's about yourself. And if you can't check yourself and check ego at the door, then you have a problem, because you will never be able to love anyone until you love yourself. So I'm coming in. I ain't getting in the middle of none of this gossip. Don't put me in none of this gossip, because I don't gossip. I'm coming to the assembly to let everybody know that I love everyone and that we all need to calm down. It's okay. Take a moment, meditate, and start with yourself. Because that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start with myself. I don't have no drama with nobody. I love everybody. So I just want to let y'all know that I'm coming in peace, and I'm coming to do what I got to do for my state. And it ain't about no coordinator job, because I don't even want to be the coordinator, to be honest with you. But I'm stepping up as a voice, because we the people need a voice, and everybody need to have their opportunity to talk. I'm just telling y'all, I'm doing it in love, because I want this to change, because I want my kids to know that their granddaddy stood up in a time like this. So we got to know who's the enemy, and we're not the enemy. We're fighting the bricks, and y'all need to know that. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Antonio. Very valid points. Mary Van Gort.
Well, I'm here to let you all know, and you all do know, Dominic has been working from the day he went on vacation. He never took a break, because you all got his emails. And I'll tell you, there were 5 in this group that did not even offer anything. And that was the 5 that want to be coordinators. If you wanted to be coordinators, you should have been volunteering when Dominic asked you to volunteer. He put together a militia. We found all 32 people that were missing out in the western states, and we did it, and they're all safe. But Dominic's been working. Anna's going to get every one of those emails to prove the date stamp is on it. Dominic may have been gone. Well, I'll tell you, Anna was gone from the last 2 Thursday night meetings. Same difference. If Anna can take a break, our coordinator can take a break, and he's been under a lot of fire. Dominic Anthony, you were really sweet about showing everybody's text messages, emails. The one thing Dominic never did was show you the horrible emails that were sent to him. But you know what? I'm recording this for him, and he's going to hear this. So when he gets back from vacation, those emails just might go out to each one of you, because people need to be exposed. And to set the record straight, Nefi accused me of being on the board of the Virginia Credit Union, and I'm not. I can't even touch the Sign in America or the Global Family accounts, what she accused me of taking and fraudulently away from them. And Anthony, you agreed with her. That's gossip. She had no proof. You can't be a board member of any credit union when you don't live in the state the credit union is in. So those are 2 points of gossip and lies and slander that was done on this assembly by one of you 5. Y'all need to look in the mirror. But I want to set the record straight. Dominic has been working, and the emails prove it. He's put together a militia group, because the militia wouldn't even put together their own group. And this 5 people never helped. Not one word has been spoken out of them about helping with the disaster, location, or funding, or supplying supplies. And Anna is going to find out. She has already been sent emails on Dominic's emails that he has sent with timestamps. And you all knew it, especially Neethi on her podcast knew it. And I yield.
Thank you for those beautiful statements. And the reason I'm going to say they're beautiful statements, no one has said here Dominic's not doing his job. What is being said is there's no reason for this assembly not to be able to come together and assemble while he's on vacation. That is what was said. As far as the Virginia Bank information goes, you yourself in video has stated certain things, and it is on the record, and I do have them, and they are downloaded. I have all email communications of everything. I am fully aware of some of those communications that are nasty towards Dominic. I'm aware of a lot of things. And if people want to know, they'll know. That's why we're here. With that, I yield. I'm going to go ahead and yield to Neefi. Neefi, at this point, you're going to have to take control. I've got to go ahead and exit.
I'd like to say something here sooner or later, okay?
I love
We're
all
gonna-
Well, hang on, Neefi. I'm sorry. I love all of you. We're not here to take over anything. We're here to help get this assembly back in love. Get this assembly moving forward and working together out of a corporate mindset. It's got to stop. It really does. Once we can do that, we'll get this state up so fast, every other state's head will spin. And that's what we need. For a lot of you who are in the chat making all these statements and stuff like that, like I'm an American state national, I'm going to be honest with you. If you haven't learned your postal power and you haven't served your notices properly, no, you're not. You're sitting in limbo land right now. You're not an American state national if you haven't done that or learned that. I know from walking experience. 6 officers left me alone because of that experience and that knowledge. So there's a lot that needs to course correct in this assembly so that all of us are out of harm's way. With that, I yield.
Anthony, may I, this is Julian.
Julian, I'm sorry. We're trying to keep time and we want to give everybody who hasn't spoken an opportunity. So Tony and Jeanette Fisher.
Hello, y'all. These are some of the most brilliant and talented people in our assembly. But what we're seeing are stories. All of us have stories. And self-righteous anger is the tool of the ego. The ego loves to make problems so it can solve them and be a hero. Self-righteous anger burn. Know that? It's because Tony and I went through it. When we took our place against the banksters and tried to take it all the way to the North Carolina Supreme Court, who was going to hear it, we looked at each other and thought, oh my God, we're playing their game and we'll never win. But what we found out was we were not being sovereigns. We were being victims, but we were full of self-righteous anger because we had the evidence. It was sterling evidence. And all it did was eat us up from inside. I loved what you said, Russell. It was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. We have got to come from a place of beyond ourselves. We're not doing this for us. We're doing it for our children and our grandchildren. Each one of us has to be a sovereign, and a sovereign means self-accountable. If somebody comes up to me and makes a statement and I react, that's my situation. I need to handle that. Or not. I can be a victim. I'm a good victim. I'm a victim to the best of my ability, but I'd rather be a sovereign. And that's where my focus goes. The assembly will survive or not. It's going to be God's will. It truly is. And I trust in God because God wins. Now, Tony and I have been through the eye of the hurricane, literally. This past week, it passed right over us. There are 4 trees down in our yard, one on a building that we had as an office. My sister had one down in her yard. She got a person to come see how much it was going to take, $3,000 to take that tree down. Our trees are going to stay exactly where they are, except on that building. We had all of our electrical equipment, all our electronic equipment, our digital equipment are all acting wonky now because of power surges. And last night, my ceiling in the bedroom fell in. Our water damage is more than we thought it was. I didn't need this meeting today. I showed up because I am vested in the assembly. It is the right thing to do. But I come as a sovereign, and I urge all of us to come as a sovereign. My suggestion is let's take these issues we've got right now. Let's do a mock trial with them. But you know what? We've got to set up our pillars and our courts first. But isn't that a great goal to have? And then let's take all this stellar, absolutely fantastic evidence we have and see if it holds up in court. I love each and every one of you, but I've spent enough time today. I got to go see what's happening in my bedroom. Thank you for being there. I yield.
Daniel.
Yeah, I've sat back for a while and watched a bunch of this, and I guess the craziest part is we start with most of these meetings and it says if ignorance prevails against Anna, it must be brought to attention immediately. Anybody really here thinks that Anna has argued with been taught by the Pope, has went in front of the Pope, goes to DC, and handles all the things that she handles, but yet somehow is brainwashed by Nethi? Wow. I think you are all just as silly as can be. If you think that Anna is that silly, not discrediting Nethi, but let's give the credit to Anna. I yield.
Anna asked us to do this meeting today because she wanted everybody to know that anyone who is on North Carolina who is done with evil should come to the Tuesday meeting. She's going to be joining us, so we'll hear what she has to say. And with that, we are closing the meeting. So we'll see you guys on Tuesday.
I'd like my minute.
David, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I never
like
saw
my
your
minute.
hand. Sure, you can have more than a minute, David.
No, I don't. I won't go over 2 minutes. Because
Go
I don't
ahead.
think anybody should have. Here's my point. I've been here about a year. I've done everything I can to get updated with Anna and all her blogs and everything, and read. And I listen to them every day. Okay, and I respect her, and I think she's a great woman. But when she comes out with an email and she uses filthy language, threats, etc., I think I've lost half my respect for that woman. She's supposed to be a Christian, yet she swears. She's supposed to be a Christian, but she called us effing bastards. Crawl back under your rock. Maybe she should not be involved in this North Carolina deal, and she should stick to what she's doing. I've read her posts, get the banks up. Who the hell's got a bank up yet? All that money that we have in accounts, we could be using to help people in Western Carolina, but we never seem to be able to get to it. So I say one, the first thing is, whoever it is that come out and read the 10 Commandments, it says, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Do not work on the Sabbath. If you read the Bible, today is the Sabbath. You should not even be here. This is a power play while Dominic's gone, and it's uncalled for. And it was unnecessary. And I think you're wrong. If you want to do what you want to do it in an open forum. but you're not going to get that many people here on today. All right? So I don't know what you're doing. I have no idea. I mean, I don't care about you one way or the other because I don't know you. I do care about me, my family, my God, and I don't like listening to this stuff. And I'm a firm believer that we need to control our state, and we are a republic. But I don't need to listen to stuff like this. And since every time I come on here, this is all I'm hearing, whether it's here today or it's Tuesday night. If we don't get our act together, this state is not going to get up. So no, don't interrupt me. So I'm just saying, why don't y'all get together with Dominic? Why don't all you disagreeing people get together and figure it out and not trying to put everybody else involved in all this bullshit?
Amen.
And with that, I yield.
Can I speak, or am I not allowed?
I think you should. Hi.
Go ahead.
I've sent to Raleigh and to Charlotte to pick up another 2,400 body bags. We've got 900 at the hospital, unidentified bodies. We dug bodies out for 3 days. I've been giving Neva Ingalls and multiple other people baths for this is day 10. No electricity, no water, no nothing. Until you've walked in my shoes, you're a hypocrite. My church out of Alabama came in here and helped me. My state did nothing but create more havoc and more problems and chaos and confusion. And Nefi, you're a ringleader. And if you cared about the people here in Swannanoa where I live, if you cared about the dead bodies and the children running around because all of their clothes are nasty and wet and they don't have anything to wear, if you cared, you'd do something. Then sit on your blessed assurance and do nothing and point a finger at the rest of us. I've worked all the way through this. I had the entire Montreat College at my house. I don't know who you are. I don't know you. I don't like you. I don't like anybody who's going to stab me every minute. I'm giving a bath, a hot meal. I'm giving out every supply at my house that I've been given. Radios and food and drink and bread and hot dogs and anything I can do. You're a bunch of hypocrites. And you didn't do anything to help. Nothing. My state did nothing. And sit there while I put them in the body bag. While I put them in there. You're a hypocrite.
Okay, calm down, Cynthia. Calm down.
May I real fast, instead of pointing fingers like we all do so fast, instead of assuming, of course, all the way over in Raleigh that Nethi has done nothing, why doesn't anybody ask her what she has done? She could probably put a list of things together of what she has tried to do during her circumstances and where she's located.
But you already
with
spoke.
everybody pointing fingers, again, we're just all losing. It's not a competition. It's not about who's doing more. That's not what this is. I'm sorry that hit certain people's areas, and I would love to be there to help, but they don't want people there to help. They want certified people there to help. They just don't want me as a body because I'm a man and I want to go. So I'm at the beach, and you're right. I'm not doing enough, I suppose. Maybe I should go there and stand by and sit at the lines and tell the police so they can tell me I can't go help anyways. There's a lot of, it's out of a lot of our hands is the problem. But to point fingers to say nobody's done anything, that again is another assumption. I yield.
And for nobody to praise the people that have is bullshit too.
Okay, let's just calm down. So we actually have been working
You want
with
to calm,
Anna.
you shouldn't even be here today.
Excuse me.
You know that. You shouldn't be here today.
Excuse me.
For what? To create another?
Yeah, this is.
All right, listen. I haven't even spoken. I have never spoken yet. You haven't even heard anything I've had to say.
I don't want to hear it either.
If you guys don't want to hear what we have to say, it's fine. You don't have to be here. No one forced anybody to come. There's been a whole lot said, and no one has ever asked me anything. No one's ever heard me say one word. You say that I have said all these things and done all these things. When have you ever heard me speak? When have you ever called me? When have you ever heard me say anything? You have never heard me talking. Also, you should read transcripts from the meetings that you feel like I said anything that was false. For 12 solid weeks, I wasn't even in any of the meetings and you spoke about me. I thought it was crazy.
Then why weren't you there?
Excuse me,
defending yourself?
David. I wasn't allowed to be in a lot of things. And when I did come, I wasn't allowed to speak, David. And also, neither were most people. Gregory can speak to that. There are many people who can attest to that.
Yes, I can.
So we're going to meet with Anna on Tuesday. We're going to meet with Anna on Tuesday. If you want to listen to what she has to say, that's fine. If you don't want to hear what she has to say, that's also fine.
She better come and apologize for what she said.
Excuse me. We will see Anna on Tuesday.
I don't appreciate being called the stuff she has.
Okay, Karen, you need to either come or don't come. It's fine. We'll see you guys on Tuesday night. This meeting is private. Bearing false witness, misrepresentation, and posting inflammatory rhetoric in public forums is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. To eliminate all conflict and false allegations, is there anyone in attendance at today's meeting that is a member or agent of any law enforcement agency or public agency of the federal, state, county, city, or township agencies present? Is there a response to the Bivens decision for the first time? This meeting is private. Bearing false witness, misrepresentation, and posting inflammatory rhetoric in public forums is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. To eliminate all conflict and false allegations, is there anyone in attendance at today's meeting that is a member or agent of any law enforcement agency or public agency of the federal, state, county, city, or township agencies present? Is there a response to the Bivens decision for the second time? This meeting is private. Bearing false witness, misrepresentation, and posting inflammatory rhetoric in public forums is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. To eliminate all conflict and false allegations, is there anyone in attendance at today's meeting that is a member or agent of any law enforcement agency or public agency of the federal, state, county, city, or township agencies present? Is there a response to the Bivens decision for the third time? Anyone who is here under false pretenses, anyone who is working for any foreign government, including the territorial United States or municipal United States, anyone who is being paid or coerced to be here, must fully disclose their presence and purpose now or leave the premises or conference call. If they subsequently show up as federal witnesses, they are discredited for failure to disclose. Are you now or have you ever received money or personal support of any kind from the intelligence community? Upon no response to this notice of the Bivens decision, this meeting shall now proceed. Dan, would you like to lead us in prayer?
Yeah. How you doing, everybody? I got a couple scriptures I'd like to share that pertains to at hand. Matthew 6:22 says, "The light of the body is the eye. If your eye is single, your whole body shall be the full of light." In this parable, Jesus uses the eye as a metaphor for a candle that guides the body. A healthy eye is clear and sees both the chasm and the bridge that leads across. The body is illuminated by the light of a healthy eye, and it can act wisely and love others. On the other hand, a bad eye is unhealthy and can't see well. The body will be full of darkness and won't be able to perceive its surroundings properly. It will be unlikely to pursue the best course of action. Genesis 32:30 says, "So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, saying, For I have seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered." I yield.
Anna, with that, we yield the floor to you.
Well, I have asked the North Carolina Assembly to assemble as a committee of the whole. So I would like to make sure that everybody knows what that means. It basically means that the Assembly as a whole is going to function as a committee to address the disaster. As part of the disaster recovery and relief efforts that are ongoing, we will be expanding the Federation interface with North Carolina so that we will have more coordinators working and being available to assist you and to collect information, to forward requests, and to assist everyone in this recovery. It will take a long time to recover from what's happened the past couple of weeks. What has happened here will live on in the memory of the people of North Carolina for many years. And we must all prepare ourselves to engage in a long-term effort to restore, rebuild, repair, comfort, and ultimately to see those parts of your state which have been damaged returned to a healthy and happy community. I know that it is very hard to imagine right now, but in 10 years, we will have made very significant progress. And much of the damage that you see today will be cleared away. Much of it will be replaced by new bridges, new highways, new water facilities, new infrastructure, new buildings. And so, as this comes to pass, we won't forget, but we will see a new resurgence of life and community in North Carolina. I can speak to this process personally because I too am a survivor of a major league national disaster. I experienced the other side of natural disasters, a gigantic wildfire that swept through our area in Alaska in 1996 and destroyed our home. We had to rebuild from scratch and ashes. And so I am no stranger to the process, nor to the misguided and mischievous and malfeasant actions of FEMA. I think it is important that everyone understands that despite its deceitful name, the Federal Emergency Management Administration is not really about delivering any kind of aid. The FEMA organization operates more as an insurance agent, going in on behalf of its federal contractors and making assessments and working damage control. And they are very Number one, they're slow. Number two, they are obstructionist. And number three, they are deceitful. One of the things that we learned when the disaster hit our community was that the federal government would go around and offer everyone a one-time check from Uncle Sam. If you accepted the check and cashed it, then it was considered that you had released all claims for damages and all other support from the government. It was taken as a settlement of your claims. Now they are offering you a whole $750 to basically sell out your interest in your own property and your claims against them. As desperate as some people are, they might actually be tempted to take this. But I think it's very important that we get the word out that this is an offer and that this is going to come with strings attached that you might not want to accept. Because it turns out that we have proven that this storm was created deliberately. It was cloud seeded, and then it was guided using frequency responders directly into the heart of our country. This morning, the state legislatures, members of the state of North Carolina met and were debriefed regarding weather warfare technology and the radar signals and other information that are coming out of this storm and the NOAA contracts that were issued for the cloud seeding. And they have determined that this was a deliberate attack and a man-made storm event. So your claims should be at least the entire amount of your property value times 3 plus all property damages at a minimum. And since this was an act of grotesque malfeasance and deliberate premeditated genocide, I would suggest to you that their liability is complete, such that you should be able to bankrupt them and to really, if you don't take that $750 payment, you should be able to realize very, very significant compensation from the United States of America Incorporated, which was an accomplice to the act. Basically, what they did is that the British Territorial U.S. Congress voted to extend life to the old United States Incorporated municipal agencies for an additional 3 months. They should have died and been gone away as of October 1st. And none of this should have happened, except that the British Territorial Congress extended their funding for an additional 3 months and enabled this attack against our country and our people. So both the U.S. Territorial Congress and these hired agents that used to work for the municipal government are liable and at fault for everything that has befallen your state. I want everyone to know that up front. I want everybody to know that these $750 checks are not aid, they are an offer to quelch your claims against them for their behavior. And I highly advise everybody to tear up and return these checks to sender, not cash them, and not even consider cashing them, because it is an insult to your intelligence and an insult to your suffering that they would even issue these paltry little penny checks that can't even buy you a couple of nights in a hotel. I want you to tell your friends and your neighbors what I'm telling you. I want you to share this podcast or teleconference with all the other states, because there are 7 other states that have been affected by the Hurricane Helene. And we are now engaged in deconstructing a similar scenario with Hurricane Milton. I want you to know that NOAA, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, is complicit in this, that they have tried to alter their records, but their records have already been seized and have been monitored, so that we know for sure that they engaged in the Project Cirrus style cloud seeding activities that led to the engendering of both Hurricane Helene, Hurricane Kirk, and Hurricane Milton now. We've determined the methodology, and those who were responsible for the cloud seeding are being arrested as we speak. The transmitter towers that were used to guide the hurricane into North Carolina, Virginia, and the other states affected are being dismantled. And similar towers in Florida are being dismantled as we speak, in an attempt to mitigate and limit the damage that could be done by Hurricane Milton. So we have a lot of things going on right now, both in terms of mitigating disaster and picking up and recovering from disasters that have already happened. We have established that there is a coded message in the names and the assignment numbers of the hurricanes themselves that is related to the British territorial government and to the government of Great Britain. These coded messages are things like the name Prince of Wales, United Kingdom, and D-Day, various things that have been encoded into the computer descriptions of the hurricanes within the national databases that identify it as the work of the British territorial government. And as I've said, none of this would be happening without an extension of credit and payment by the British Territorial Congress to the former municipal agencies, allowing this to happen at all. So we have complicity, we have collusion, we have a situation where the British Territorial Congress has not only acted to facilitate this attack against our government by former employees of the municipal government, but they have also refused to render aid and assistance. House Speaker of the U.S. Congress, that is the British Territorial Congress, has refused to immediately reallocate money for disaster assistance. This makes him an enemy of the state, specifically subject to arrest for treason, conspiracy, crimes against humanity, genocide, and other crimes that are crimes of state. The Speaker of the House of every Congress has an ability in the face of a disaster to reallocate funds that have already been appropriated for other purposes. For example, out of billions of dollars that they allocated as assistance to the Ukrainian puppet government that they set up and have supported. Out of the $1.6 billion they've spent on aiding and abetting illegal immigration, they could have allocated money to the people of North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee. They have chosen willfully not to do this and not to take any action until their next scheduled session. We are looking at criminals in our midst. We are looking at employees, public employees that are in flagrant violation of their service contracts. We are looking at people who have betrayed this country and its people while taking their paychecks from our pockets. And there could not possibly be a more infuriating lack of response than we have experienced in this current disaster from those who owe us good faith service and owe us immediate assistance. Instead, we've had FEMA trying to obstruct the delivery of aid to North Carolina and the other affected states. We've had FEMA blocking airstrips. We've had FEMA threatening our helicopter pilots. We have intercepted FEMA convoys attempting to deliver guns, grenades, and other armaments of war to FEMA personnel. We have had a complete flying circus out there as our civilian helicopter pilots have rushed to the scene and have set up forward bases on the edges of the disaster area and are now flying nonstop rescue and recovery missions. I should tell you that the civilian forces, the civilian helicopters, and other helicopters that have miraculously appeared are carrying bodies as well as survivors. And the process and progress of the disaster is such that although we are rescuing slightly more survivors, the proportion between the living and the dead is coming toward even, and it will over time gradually tilt toward a recovery effort of the dead rather than a rescue delivery of the living. The 3 or 4 days that FEMA cost us while all of this was getting hammered out, and they were being subjected to discipline from our direction, cost us lives. And the total number of estimated death toll from this event is likely to be at least 250,000 people lost in the 7 states that have been impacted. To put this in perspective, our total losses in Vietnam were about 55,000. So we have a long row ahead of us. These are the days that try men's souls. That we should be attacked by our own public employees is an inevitable conclusion. That they have conspired against the constitutions that created them and which have given them power is also inescapable. That they are guilty as a generality of treason is inescapable. That the foreign principles, powers, and principalities that are in charge of these corporations have been guilty of violation of our treaties and our contracts is also inescapable. These are not acts of war. Many people have been trying to respond to this and to conceive of this in terms of war. This is something that is actually worse. This is a mercenary attack by privately owned corporations that have been in the government services business for generations. So this is an armed mercenary conflict. It is not a war. And some people may not understand that there is a profound difference. Wars are conducted under declarations of war. Wars are lawful engagements between countries. And there are solid conventions that rule the conduct of war. The Geneva Conventions and the Hague Conventions among them. But this is an illegal conflict. This is a conflict that knows no rules, that knows no bounds, that is outlawed and has been outlawed for centuries. And yet here we are, once again, as a world, facing a situation which is identical to what happened during the French Revolution. For those who are not familiar with what happened in the French Revolution, a few years after the American Revolution, bureaucrats took control of the French government. They gained access to the credit of the French government, and they spent the credit of the French government on lavish lifestyles for themselves, incredibly huge building projects, all sorts of public endowments. They so radically overspent the resources of the French government that the French government collapsed and the king was blamed. What followed was a complete and utter decay of any kind of civil order in which the military sided with the people and everybody got together and had a bloodfest which has never been equaled in the history of the world, as the French people wreaked their vengeance on the bureaucrats and the government. And so we remember the French Revolution, but we don't always remember the causes. We remember the blood, but we don't remember the bureaucracy that gave rise to the blood. The same exact thing has happened here. Bureaucrats, public employees, gained control of certain aspects of our government following the Civil War. They acted secretively to expand upon that control and weaved a web of commercial mercenary conflicts for profit. And they ensnared and entrapped and deluded and deceitfully misrepresented their wars for profit as actual wars. Unfortunately, their deceit also applied to lying to our military. Our rank and file military were consistently lied to and consistently abused. They were inducted under false pretenses, they were drafted under false pretenses, and they were used as cheap mercenaries by commercial and foreign interests that most decidedly had nothing in mind and no cause for what they were doing other than sheer mercenary greed. And then they didn't even share the profits with the men that they commandeered into mercenary service. This in a world in which press ganging has been outlawed for 200 years, and both peonage and enslavement have been outlawed worldwide since 1926. Obviously, this is the work of criminals. And unfortunately, a majority of our public employees, knowingly or unknowingly, have functioned as criminals, and exactly the same kind of criminal bureaucracy that overtook the French government back in 1789. So, the situation is indeed serious, and our responses to it must be serious. We must come together as one people, and we must face the damage, and we must face the sources of the damage, the reasons for the damage. Part of what I'm asking the Assembly to do as a committee of the whole is to accept and work with a much larger federation interface of 8 coordinators. I'm asking that coordinator team to split the state up into 8 service areas, and each one of the new coordinators take on responsibility for that service area. While working as a team, we also would like to maintain a local reconnaissance and local presence so that there is a point person that someone in each one of those areas knows where to go and who to see. And that isn't something that's possible for just one person to do. We may expand the number of coordinators as more volunteers come forward to further intensify the presence of our aid and assistance in the state. We are presently and rapidly deploying our resources to bring an end to any further weather warfare, geoengineering warfare, pollution, any kind of abuse of the 5G network. We are disabling the 5G towers and the 5G networks as quickly as we possibly can. We are also tracking down those responsible and arresting them. We will continue to arrest them, and we will continue to prosecute them. Some of the people have been alarmed by the public announcements, or I should say public notices, that have been issued in the last couple of days and have thought that we were overstepping our boundaries or that we were using inflammatory language. I must correct your thinking on this. Those public notices declared the law of the land, and the law of the land is very different from the law of the sea that you're used to. The law of the land, as I have said before on numerous occasions, is very draconian. It is not a law that allows for 15 different appeals and 40 years spent on death row. The law of the land is sometimes called frontier justice, and it is sometimes derided. However, it is our law. And in a situation like this, it has a clear and settled ability to deal with criminality at the state and local level. We don't stand around while pirates attack and sack and murder and plunder our towns. We don't sit around when foreign governments send mercenaries into our streets to prevent us from delivering aid, rescue, and assistance to the survivors of a disaster, whether natural or man-made. Every word that appears in those notices is correct and is a correct representation of our law and our situation. We have the absolute right to defend ourselves. We have the absolute right to deliver relief and rescue to the victims of a disaster. And we are enforcing the law and the contracts. Now people wonder, how can we do that? As the second public notice has described, the sheriffs of every county, all 3,100 of them, plus 3,100, are now obligated to enter their office as a peacekeeping officer. As a peacekeeping officer, they have vastly expanded powers, and they are required to use them to render aid and assistance. Now, one of the things that has also come to light in the last couple of days, in addition to the malfeasance and misdirection of FEMA, has been a concerted effort by certain federal agencies and officials to come into your state and make completely obscene proposals, such as the public meeting that was held in Chimney Rock, or what's left of Chimney Rock, to the survivors of the disaster there, telling them that the area was being condemned under a right of federal eminent domain. I want you all to know and tell your neighbors and be sure that there is no such thing as any right of federal eminent domain, and never has been. On occasion, they've gotten away with condemning land under such a assumed power, such as when they put through the interstate system and they came through and drew lines on a map and built roads wherever they wanted to. They got away with that because our government was not in session and was not present to object. The fact of the matter is that all land belongs to the states of the Union. And unless they have a grant and record of a grant or a use permit allowing them to use land within the state, they have nothing. They have no rights of eminent domain whatsoever in any state of the Union. And we are here to object, so they cannot presume. If they don't have a piece of paper in their pocket saying that your state legislature, the actual state legislature, granted them the use of a parcel of land or gave them a permit for the perpetual use of a parcel of land or granted land to federal entities, then they are trespassing. And no, they have no right to do any such thing in Chimney Rock. They've done this in several places, just as they have been operating in Palestine and the Gaza Strip. You may all recall that they went in, staged this fake attack in Gaza by Hamas, and then used that as an excuse to go in and totally obliterate the entire Gaza Strip and depopulate it. They like to use that word, depopulate it. They murdered the residents of Gaza, and now they have murdered the residents and the people of North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, and Tennessee. And they brought their machines in, and they brought their mining equipment, and they placed their claims of federal eminent domain, which is a bogus bunch of BS. And they have made it very clear that they intend to bring in their mining operations. And after denying the people of this state the ability to develop their own rich mineral resources, they are attempting to steal your mineral resources from you under color of law and fiction, legal fiction. They're after your lithium deposits and they're after your silicon deposits. High-grade silicon is used in the international industry producing computer chips. Lithium is used in high-intensity batteries. So they're after your minerals, and they think they're going to get away with it. We're here to stop them. We're here to defend the assets of the people of North Carolina. And you are here to help us defend the resources and the property rights and the interests of the people of North Carolina. In the days to come, you will see many helicopters, you'll see many truck convoys, you'll see an awful lot of resources being deployed to assist the people of North Carolina. It will be difficult for you to sort through, organize, and make use of all this, because I can tell you what happens in an actual disaster is that all this aid comes pouring in willy-nilly, and the aid that you are receiving right now is probably aid and assistance that you won't be able to make really good use of for another month. And at every stage of the whole operation, you'll see this kind of oddball juxtaposition where the aid would be great a month from now. But right now, it's a problem in that logistically, where are you going to store it? Right? So you're going to see tents springing up. You're going to see connexes being stored in vacant fields. You're going to see all sorts of things go on as the aid is, number one, delivered, number two, stored, number three, organized, and number four, distributed. Okay? Now, our mission here is to make sure that the convoys are offloaded safely, that there is some place for them to offload that's safe, that we can maintain the storage in our staging areas for organization and deployment, And we can get enough community volunteers organized to organize the assistance. I'll use an example from my own experience. When we lost our home in the Miller's Reach fire that took our home in 1996. This happened at the height of summer, and which was fortunate because it allowed us to create shelter for a greater number of people within the time frame we had. But anyway, we suddenly had van loads, semi-loads of winter clothing and socks and mittens and hats. Well, you know, sure, we're going to need that in October, November, December, sure. But, you know, it's 3 months from now that we'll be needing these particular relief supplies. So what we had to do was organize in church basements and other places where we could bring the stuff in and sort it, because it all comes in a big clump. You know, it's men's long johns and women's sweaters and children's jackets and mittens for everybody, and it's wonderful. And yet it's 3 months down the line, and it all has to be sorted. It has to be organized. It has to be put on a shelf or in a box in some way that you can reach for it and say, oh, yes, here's a size XL pair of mittens for a man. Okay, you see, this is the kind of confusion, chaos, and community work that has to be done in order to make use of and deploy all this assistance. And on the backside of it, you've got all of these people who are standing there shell-shocked going, my house is gone. What do I do? And some of them, about a third of them, are just going to give up and move on. They're going to be gone unless you can get some sort of contact information for them. And they'll go live with relatives in Ohio and Manitoba, California. They'll leave. And they won't be available to contact. Some of them will be so shell-shocked that they will lose contact with their land, and their land will then be abandoned, and it will be condemned by the vermin that did this to us. And in the end, they will be deprived of their property rights through abandonment. So we have to put out the word, if you leave the area, which is understandable. I mean, if you have friends and relatives and your house is gone, then perhaps you'll go live with your friends and relatives in other parts of the country, but stay in contact with us. Stay in contact so that your claims can be made right. Stay in contact so that your land doesn't just disappear in a sheriff's auction sale. Okay, so this is part of what we have to do, is try to reach and, you know, and give a contact where they can keep in contact. Okay, even though they're leaving the area. About 2/3 of the people will stay. A third of them will be without housing of any kind. And the other third will be living either in houses that miraculously didn't get damaged, or which are damaged, or buildings that are damaged. Many people, including myself, wound up living in buildings that they never intended to live in. Our house burned, but my husband's art studio survived the fire, so we moved into the art studio. Now, the art studio was not set up to be a house. And so we had a significant amount of remodeling and work that had to be done to make it into something livable. But we had a structure. And thank God for us, that structure survived intact. So about a third of the people will have nowhere to go, will have any kind of a structure or shelter. And about a third will be living in structures that survived, but maybe were not ever houses, or that have sustained substantial damage that will need repair. And unlike us, your disaster has occurred in the fall, not the spring. So you have less time before the cold temperatures hit, especially in the mountain areas, where I'm told the temperature is dipping down to around 40 degrees at night now. Also, although Alaska is somewhat hindered by the vastness of the place and the long distances, your terrain in western North Carolina and all along the Blue Ridge is extremely difficult in terms of transportation at the best of times, and with major roads washed away and major bridges washed away, transportation to get assistance to individuals in towns and farms in the backwoods are going to be extremely difficult. Now, I have seen already pack trains coming out of the hills with people who are actually packing up supplies and trafficking it back into the backcountry using horses and mules and wagons. And we do what we have to do. If that's the way to do it, that's the way we do it. If we have to pack it out 150-pound pack at a time, then that's what we do. And we have to deal first with food and shelter and heat. So those are the things that will be most important in terms of saving lives in the upshot immediately, especially in those communities that are down the hollow and up the valley and over the other side. We have to be thinking in terms of airdrops to some of those communities, because it is far more efficient if we have a helicopter pick up a pallet load of food and just drop it for an entire community, or a pallet load of fuel and drop it. And we can do that. We will do that, but we have to identify the communities. We have to know what those communities need. So as you are seeing these pack trains come in and they're beginning to do their work, we have to coordinate those kinds of pallet load drops using helicopters. And that has to be food, and that has to be medical supplies, and that has to be additional water in some cases. And in all the cases in the mountain villages, it's going to mean stoves, it's going to mean fuel. Now, there are some locations where you have access to coal mines, of course, and coal and coal burning stoves can be delivered, and it can be, in some cases, directly taken out of the mines. But these are kind of local issues in terms of where do we have the coal resources? How can we access our coal resources? Right down to the microscopic level of which family needs a coal stove, which family needs tin for a roof, which family needs big posts in order to shore up a falling roof, a roof that's been damaged. And so all of this information has to be collected. All of it has to be responded to. We've been very, very lucky that nobody in the North Carolina Assembly died in this. It could have very easily been a different result. And so, I thank God for all of you. And I thank God that you got through it, because an awful lot of other people didn't. And I hope that each and every one of you will take up the torch here and be guided by your very best instincts. First and foremost, make sure that if you have specific needs, you forward those needs to your coordinators, and that we become aware of them and that we take care of them. Now, the next step is to do outreach in the communities, obviously. And then the third step is, as the funding becomes available, not only individually to each of us who have accounts with the Global Family Bank and with our national bank within that whole structure, our sovereign treasury account, we'll be in a position to use that money for all sorts of governmental and philanthropic projects, whether it's rebuilding a community center, or whether it's rebuilding a school or a road or whatever else is needed. We will have access to funding individually and as a group, as a government, as a state government, to be able to take these things on and fund them. Now, what I want to make sure and emphasize to you is that our government is different than their government. Our government requires that the people who live in a county approve of any projects that are taking place in the county. So the county will become important in terms of organizational units to recover from this disaster. For example, if we want to establish 2 water treatment facilities in a county, then the people living in those communities need to come together and say yay or nay. We want a new water treatment facility and we want it to be here. And, you know, this is the plan that we approve. This is what we want in our county. Okay, so you're going to have a bigger voice than you've ever had before. Our government won't just come in and dump it on you. You know, we'll stand here, we'll have the resources, we'll say, yay, go for it. But you're going to have to take an initiative to define what your communities need and what your county wants in your county. So, you know, everybody's going to have to get busy here and self-govern to a degree they probably never imagined before. Now, some people will look forward to that with giddiness and joy. Other people will think, oh my God, what am I going to do? And it's really up to you to seize the opportunity and think in a longer term, above and beyond this current emergency and disaster, to envision a future 50, 100 years down the road. What's this place going to look like 100 years from now? What kind of needs will it have 100 years from now? So as you're hitting the bricks, so to speak, and beginning to grapple with all of this, give some thought to issues like, where could we establish a community center on high ground? And what should a community center look like? Given this experience, should a community center include emergency sleeping facilities so that we can set up essentially bunkhouses for families and for single people? Should it have a community soup kitchen facility so that in the case of any kind of disaster, people have somewhere to go and get a hot meal right now? Should it have a food storage associated with it? I would argue in favor of all those things. It should be a standard component of every community to have a disaster preparedness center that they can also use during the good times for things like an auditorium, a gymnasium, things that will benefit the people in the community in good times and hard times both. And giving some thought to how such a facility can be designed and how it can be scaled for the needs of a small community or a large community or multiplied for a large community is one of the things that people should be kind of penciling out on their desk, frankly, and thinking in terms of, well, gee, if this happened again, what would be the best location for a community center? Where's the high ground away from the floodwaters? Where's the open space that is outside of the tree line in case of a forest fire? What kind of a roof should it have? Should it have a tin roof so that it doesn't catch embers? Well, yes, it should. There are many, many different considerations that go forward as we're planning these projects to restore and to defend and support and bring aid and assistance to these communities. One of the things we're looking at right now is basically an open assembly where they bring in tractor trailers and they use 3D printing to print entire buildings, and they go up extremely fast. Within, a week, you could have a storage facility that's 120 feet long and 60 feet wide to store and distribute disaster relief and organize it. And then later it can be turned into a community center. And these sorts of things can be done in an almost miraculous fashion if we organize ourselves and know what we need and want. It's sort of like God. You ask God for what you need, right? And so you have to have some idea of what you want and need before it's possible for the rest of us to organize and get what you want and need to you. So I'm always preaching on this. Think about what you want. Envision it. See it in your mind. And then share that. Think of it. Put it together in your own mind. Share it with your friends, your families, the members of the assembly. We have screen share available here. So, for example, someone comes up with an idea for a community center, or rather, in the example, an emergency storage facility that can later be turned into a community center of the sort we're discussing. And we can put the plan right there on the screen. Right? We're Americans. We know how to do things. We know how to survive disasters. We know how to fight both actual wars and dirty wars. We have the manpower, we have the riches, we have the resources, and we have the community spirit to make it happen. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do what Americans always do. We're going to grab hold of our pants and we're going to pull up and we're going to go. And so I am here tonight to kind of talk about this, talk about the overall situation, give you a kind of a vision of what we need to get organized here, how we propose to organize it. The roles of the coordinators are to be the community contact points. Each one of them will have a direct ability to contact members of the Federation as sources. Each one of them will be able to suggest their ideas and, ideas that are brought forward from the people in their area. as to what is specifically needed now and down the road. And altogether, we'll work it out and make it happen. I yield.
Awesome.
See people.
Very awesome. Very awesome.
Beautiful, beautiful speech, Anna. I appreciate that. I do see people are in, so we're going to take our time one at a time, try to limit it to 1 to 2 minutes, whatever we need to say, and then we will go to each one. Just make sure you say your yield. With that, we can start with Gwen.
Anna, we were told Saturday by our 5 or 6 new coordinators that we were resetting North Carolina. Is that your idea, that we're resetting and that all elected officials or elected positions or appointed positions and anything that we voted on by the people in the past is all null and void? Is that true?
When an assembly operates as a committee of the whole, those sorts of things don't apply because you're not operating as the General Assembly, you're operating as a committee. And committees don't have, for example, masters of arms, marshals at arms. They don't have, they don't necessarily have a treasurer. They don't necessarily have a speaker. Committees are self-assembling. And the reason that we have the coordinator team expanded for this purpose is so that we have more people on the ground with a direct connection to the Federation who are able to get help from the Federation for their area. So in a sense, while you're operating as a committee, there aren't any officers. It's all just us chickens and us Indians all together in one pile without chiefs per se. And that is, it is a reorganization for sure. Because when you're operating as a committee of the whole and you're operating for a special purpose like this, the normal functions of the assembly as the assembly are set aside to deal with the disaster.
So then when this disaster is over, do we go back to where we left off or does it start over?
Well, I doubt very much that you'll ever be able to go back to where you left off because this past week, too much has happened to your entire state. By the time we get through this process, another 2 years will have passed in a blink of an eye. And even the numbers and the kinds and sorts of situations and people and populations will have changed. So you'll have to go back and you may start out with the same officers, or you may wind up with an entirely new group. It's impossible to say.
Okay, and my last question is, did you author the message to us calling us all fucking bastards?
No, I did not.
Who authored that?
What's happened here is that certain members of the North Carolina leadership happened to do something rather corporate, something that was illegal. And it was something so egregious that I lost my temper. And that was specifically to those people who did it, not to anybody else, and not meant to be shared with anyone else.
It was shared 4 times. It was shared by Neethi 4 times.
Well, I don't know how Neethi got hold of a copy to share when she knew very well that that was addressed to other people. But in any event, let us get beyond bad behavior. Let us get beyond trespassing on other people's rights and prerogatives. Realize that everybody here, every single man and woman that you see in these little tiles, everybody has the same exact rights, and it does not follow the corporatist model by which, you know, you have a position and therefore you think you have some sort of authority. No, you have a trust. The other people here are trusting you to do a job. It's a completely different model of government. And I was so frustrated that I sent out a little diagram that shows how a hierarchical structure is and how a communal based structure is. And I would hope that everybody got that little diagram so that they could finally see that we are not an autocracy. We are not built like a corporation. We don't have a CEO. Our coordinator is not a CEO. Our coordinator team is not a CEO.
So they gave us a bunch of instructions on how we are to think and act in our little Saturday emergency meeting. So our new coordinator team is starting out being more of a CEO than our old coordinator ever thought about being. So I don't know if you're aware of all the stuff. I sent you a testimony of a PowerPoint that goes against all of the things that were said, and I would hope that you would take the time to actually look at it. And with that, I yield.
Well, I'm sure everybody has their opinions about everybody else. And what I'm asking everyone to do is change your thinking. Start thinking about everybody else in this entire conversation as being equal in every way, whether they have an office or not. Start thinking about everybody who's pictured here as being precious, valuable, wonderful, God's own creation, okay? Start thinking like a communitarian. Start thinking like the founding fathers. Don't think as elitists. Don't think as power mongers. This is not what we're here for. We're not here to power monger. We're not here. We're here to help you, but we're not here to dictate to you. Okay? President Ronald Reagan said that the most fundamentally scary words in the English language were, we're the government, we're here to help. And that's because their government is an autocracy. Okay? It's because they're all top down. It's because they don't really care about you. It's because they want to boss you around and tell you what to do. I don't want to boss you around and tell you what to do. I'm here to help you. Yes, I am. But it has to be on your terms and you have to do your part, which means you have to determine what you want and need. You have to take the time and effort to figure out what works for your communities. Oftentimes I get called upon to do micromanaging for assemblies, and I refuse to do it because that's not my job. In fact, being involved in this process at all is not my normal job. My normal job is to be out there on the front lines, fighting with agencies like FEMA, holding people like Mike Johnson's feet first to the fire. That's my job. My job is finding a new paymaster that's competent to pay the military. My job is to bring action before the various high courts of the world and bring forth our claims and our complaints. Okay, I'm supposed to be out there. I'm not supposed to be here. The only reason that I'm here right now is that it had been so long between the sessions of our government that it had to be basically rebuilt. I was talking today with Lisa Schaefer on Ohio, and she was talking about the fact that not all the coordinators we get are the best people for the job. You know, sometimes we get coordinators who are self-centered and who are control junkies and who are not honest, okay? This happens because they're all volunteers and they just step up at random, right? So we've had plenty of experiences where the people who stepped up to be volunteers were not the best people for the job. And she was saying that actually the assemblies should choose the coordinators. And I explained to her that normally you have what's called a sessions committee that brings the assembly back and forth into session. And the sessions committee does have the people, the quote unquote circuit riders that are now called coordinators, who are there already poised and selected prior to the assembly going out of session. So in time to come, yes, you do get to choose your coordinators. But since we were starting up from nothing, from scratch, we had to ask for volunteers from each state. So yes, it's been quite a ride and quite a grab bag. And nobody who was stepping into that position had any prior knowledge of it. There was nobody there to guide them. There was no one left to say, okay, this is how you do it. So it has been a very steep learning curve. And, you know, it isn't like there's been any guarantee. Every state has had to step up, and the people from each state have had to work hard to get a coordinator or coordinators in place that they could work with and who were able to walk that line between being a organizer and helper and being a CEO. Frankly, I know that a lot of the coordinators have been begged, forced, pushed, harassed with the expectations of people thinking that they were the CEO in charge. And one of the biggest challenges for most of them is to say, no, I'm not the CEO, and no, I'm not going to make that decision for you. That's your decision. You guys have to get it together and figure out what you want. Because they're constantly being assaulted and assailed by the expectation that they're the CEO. And they're not. They're often blamed for not being the CEO. And so I would caution everybody to stop thinking of the coordinator as a CEO and start thinking of the coordinator as your helper, as someone who will get answers for you, who will get assistance for you, who will try to work out solutions, but not somebody who's your CEO who's going to order you around like so many little 9 pins, because that isn't their job either.
Do you yield, Anna?
I yield, yeah.
All right, thank you. Joe McDougal.
Thank you. I have a whole lot of respect for you and the work that you're doing. But when I received the text or email or whatever it was on the other day after the storm, it kind of blew my mind. Because the storm had come in, I was called and asked. What I do is try and build the membership up in the militia. They needed somebody to step in a position of militia commander, in which that's not what I'm claiming by any means. Step up as a militia commander to take care of the people in the affected area. And I went to work. I have, between Dominic and 3 or 4 others in the group, I have conversed with them, and we were able to pull things together and collect to take to Western North Carolina. In this whole process, emails were sent out for the people on North Carolina, to help. And instead of all the people on North Carolina helping, only a few stood up. But the job got done. I just got back from a trip to Western North Carolina to see that they were taken care of. I went to the center point of North Carolina to deliver. Those to the north can come to the center to pick up what they need. Those in the south can come to the center to pick up what they need. But in the back of my mind, this mess that is going on is frustrating me. I don't know who you're listening to, but the North Carolina militia has been up and running day one, running wide open. We carried a 40-foot trailer completely full over there today from the few that was able to donate. Where if everybody had come together, it would have been 30 damn trucks.
I heard
But
what
then,
happened.
but then I got the message that I'm a fucking bastard, and that bothered me. And with
I
that,
didn't say
I
that to
yield.
you. I said it to Dominic and Cynthia Pinkston, and let's make it very clear.
Well, it was
I was
not.
thoroughly
It
disgusted
was
with
not.
them.
It was not. When it come out,
And
it
Neither
was
should
to
never
us.
have shared that. Never, ever.
It was to us. That bothered me.
It was
I
not to
understand.
you.
You know, where
It was not
Neither needs to
addressed
give
to
a damn.
you.
Point of order. I'm gonna have to put in a point of order right now. We're trying. I
It
understand.
was not addressed to you, Mr. Johnson. It was addressed to Cynthia and Dominic because of things that were done that were not right, and they knew it.
First time I've heard myself called a fucking bastard. Thanks, Anna. I yield.
Well, you deserved it, Cynthia, and you know it too. You had never let go from your position of bad-mouthing, backbiting, and carrying on a subterranean war against Nethi and anyone associated with Nethi. I've had people from North Carolina tell me that I'm Nethi's mouthpiece. I've had people tell me that I'm Cynthia's mouthpiece. And I'm here to tell all of you I'm nobody's mouthpiece. I stood up to the Queen of England. I stood up to the Pope. And I've stood up to the Lord Mayor of the inner city of London. I've stood up to the entire British crown. And I am no sissy. And I think for myself and I evaluate things for myself. And what I found was not good. And when I see people using corporate tactics to suborn and slander and harass and continue to assault and assail people long after this should have been put to bed, then it's time that somebody stood up and said, enough. Now I've said it. Enough. I said it directly to the leadership of both factions.
May I?
You may.
May I complete? I haven't yielded.
Wait a minute. I just asked Anna if I may. Anna, I'd like to apologize to you. I did send that out to everybody because there's so much chaos and confusion on our state, and they just don't stop. And I shared everything with everyone instead of allowing any more compartmentalization. And so I apologize, Anna, to you.
That's not true. It wasn't sent to everyone.
Listen, there is a lot going on in terms of technology being blocked that has nothing that, I mean, it's out of my control. I can include everybody's emails on all the things. And then when it doesn't get to everybody, I'm sorry that I don't know why it's not going everywhere, whether it's your email is so private or whatever. I'm really not clear. But I am using a mail distributor. And so sometimes I think people, their systems block it as spam. And I don't have access to whatever the assembly was using because no one was cooperating or conversating with us in terms of being able to work together when we reached out to them. So with that, I yield.
May I?
You may.
Everyone, my name is Julian, and as I said before, I'm a pastor. I've been pastoring for 15 plus years. I've stood on many stages, and I want to draw everyone's attention. I sent a letter to Miss Anna. She was so busy she didn't really get it, but I something that I recognize, guys. The title behind her name is fiduciary. What I sent to her, I said, Miss Anna, please. I said, your feet were made to stand on stages that
we're not able to grace. If everyone listens to what she is trying to tell you, first of all, she shouldn't be here. Because where God has anointed her, when I say God, I mean the Creator, so I'm not necessarily pulling on one religion or another. But when you're used to walking in certain areas where there's a certain type of protocol, you might get offended because there are certain etiquettes that you might not know about that this woman has had to walk into. And like she said, she can't be a sissy. I'm going to use her word. However, if you pull her off that mountain and she has to come down and say she rebukes, the word of God says that he chastises those whom he loves. In other words, don't wear your feelings and emotions on your sleeves. And that goes for both sides. It's ridiculous because there are at least 500 people that I can touch that I wouldn't want to bring them into this garbly goop because we don't know how to communicate with each other. Okay, so what? You're offended. Okay, but if you feel that you're called to a place of help and servitude, it's not about ego. You have to learn the law or the lay of the land. I don't ask anybody. I took liberty and to call Cynthia, and I call all of my pastor friends. And we want to, I have, and I'll need your instructions. I got in contact with some friends who are in contact with the military. They want to fly helicopters. I don't know nothing about directing anybody towards anything, but I do realize when you know and you feel in your heart to do something, I was always taught, act like you know what you're doing until someone comes along and say, what are you doing here? So what I am saying is, everyone, please, it's not about this person made me mad or this person said this or that. But if you know what she's trying to say as a fiduciary, again, she shouldn't even be here dealing with this garbage. We have to learn how to deal with each other, let alone run a government. So I do understand and comprehend what she's saying. It's like there are no titles right about now. In other words, if you feel the need to do what you're going to do, well, we're going to have to learn to work with each other because there's something bigger at hand that she explained so eloquently. I yield.
Thank you for that, Pastor.
Thank you for that.
That's the most reasonable explanation and statement I've heard out of North Carolina. And it's true. You have to learn to work together whether you like each other or not. And you can't be backbiting, infighting, power mongering, and acting like kids in a, some sort of slam fest gossip session. It shocks me, you shocked by my language. Well, yes, I did call them fucking bastards. I did. I was that tuned up. I was that angry. Because some of the things that have gone on here shouldn't have gone on here. Because they knew better and they did it anyway. Okay? I didn't suggest that they step down from their offices. I suggested that they man up and start acting like the people they should be and could be. Because they're not acting in their best interest, and they're not acting in the best interest of North Carolina. They're not acting in the best interest of this assembly if they're carrying on a little he said, she said gossip war. I informed Dominic, subsequent to that letter, that he is viewed by many people in North Carolina who have directly contacted me as a man who's a manipulative man who's standing behind Cynthia and using her as his attack dog. Literally. More than one person has said that over the course of the past year. And I explained to him in no uncertain terms that if that isn't what's happening, then he needs to step up and he needs to talk to Cynthia about her gossiping and her abuse of power. Now, I love Cynthia. I think she's a fine person. I know that she's well intended and that she's gone over the top and really tried her best to help a lot of people, and she's continuing to do that right now. But we can't continue to have an assembly that is polarized by this kind of infighting. It doesn't belong in an assembly. It belongs in a corporate boardroom. I spent many years in the corporate world. I was a labor negotiator. I was a CEO. I created at least 12 corporations, 10 of which are still in existence, even though I left them long ago. So when I see corporate boardroom politics being played out in an assembly, I know what I'm seeing. I am not ignorant. I'm not somebody who fell off the turnip truck yesterday. When I see corporate manipulations and game playing and name calling and labeling and infighting and backbiting and labeling and propaganda and all the other things that I have seen all my life in corporatocracy, I know what I'm seeing. And I know who's at fault because I know the source of it. So yes, I laid it on them. So there has to be an end to that. And if it means that they have to leave the assembly because they're just too toxic and they can't get the corporate hierarchy out of their blood and they can't stop treating people like dirt and manipulating them, then our loss. All of our loss. Their loss. The loss of the assembly, everybody's loss, because we have to learn how to get along and support and appreciate and respect each other. And if we don't, if we continue to act in the corporate mold, then guess what? All we do is recreate the corporate government that we're trying to get away from. We bring our problem with us. Just like all the Californians I encounter in Oregon, Washington, Alaska, and Idaho, Montana, all over the place, complaining about how they left California because of the high taxes and the insanity of the corporate government there. And yet they walk into a brand new state and they start promoting the same policies and the same practices that ruined California. It's like an alcoholic who comes to a new place and tries to make a start, but doesn't leave the alcohol behind. We have got to stop the corporate politics. We have to stop the power mongering. We have to stop valuing position as a office, as a power over others. Because in our government, which is a different government with different values, that's not how we do things. We don't invite, we don't backbite, we don't disrespect, we don't use, abuse, label, gossip about, undermine. No. We're supposed to work together as brothers and sisters in community for a common good and for our mutual benefit. I'm here to protect your assets and your rights. You're here to protect my assets and my rights. And together we stand. But if we lose sight of that and start this bickering and this prideful nonsense, and we just won't let it go, even after we've been shown to be wrong, then we fall. Then we're divided. Then we have this kind of he said, she said, they did. Oh, I didn't. Oh, I'm just, I'm white as snow. And then it turns out that, well, in the background, you were doing the same thing to them. And it's all corporate politics as usual. And that's why I was so completely fed up with all of that. And that's why I called them fucking bastards. Yes, I did. And I admit it, and I take responsibility for it. Maybe not the best moment of my leadership capabilities, but by God, I tell you, I was so ready to take on the entire freaking world at that moment that I didn't care what anybody thought. I was going to have my say about this continuing situation in North Carolina's leadership. They need to correct in a big way.
This is Julian again. May I?
Julian, we're gonna go ahead and no, Julian, we're gonna go ahead and wait. We're gonna let everybody in.
We
go
have
in.
everybody in line.
Yeah, everybody's been waiting patiently with their hands up. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand. I will say that anybody who has already spoken, probably not going to call upon you because we want to make sure a lot of people get a chance to say what they need to say. And also, please bear in mind to keep it in a 2-minute limit. Once 2 minutes comes up, I'll let you know. With that, Robert, go ahead.
Okay, excuse me. I wasn't able to yield. Give me 30 seconds to finish, please.
By all means, go ahead.
In that 30 seconds, I understand where you are, Anna. I really do. Okay? As I said, I respect you. I got a little warm. I apologize for getting a little upset. But with the way things are going, instead of everyone pulling together the way that we should to help the people of North Carolina, this mess has to stop. I yield.
My point exactly, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Robert?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I was trying to write down a few things so I would stay as succinct as possible. First thing, Joe McDougall, thank you so much for making that trip. I know it was a big, lengthy trip and a lot of work for you. And I appreciate everybody who contributed and everybody who received on receiving it up here. So I just want to say thank you for that. Anna, I want to thank you for distinguishing between a committee of the whole and a general assembly meeting. And to distinguish that and understand that helps, I think, explain it to a few people that maybe didn't know. I too have a fair amount of time in and out of corporate world, and I recognize truth and deceit when I see it, and I can distinguish it from one from the other. I am pleased that you are focused on Western North Carolina and other states that are struggling. I would like to know a couple of things, if you could, to guide us. One, how do we approach these officials as Americans and say, I'm going down to Lake Lure, even though you tell me I can't go. I'm going to talk to the people in Lake Lure, even though you are in the way. How do I approach that? And, you know, with what relevance should I show or what?
Okay. The sheriffs are enforcing against FEMA and others that are trying to obstruct relief efforts. You can go to the county sheriff and ask to be deputized, at which point you outrank everybody there in the federal side. You can present the public notice regarding enemies of state. And in virtually all the cases that we've had, actual FEMA employees have backed up and said, okay, have a nice day, sir.
Okay.
And that's what they should be saying, because it's your state, and in most cases it's your county, and any obstruction that they're offering, they should be assisting. They have a duty and obligation to provide immediate active assistance. So if they're not doing that, and they're not expediting your ability to help your neighbors and to communicate with your neighbors, then they are definitely in a situation where they are offering international criminal trespass.
Okay. And with regard to what you mentioned about eminent domain, was there an article about that we should be showing, or a piece of paper that we can use to explain to people what that is and how it works? Or
eminent domain is a land jurisdiction issue. They don't have land jurisdiction. We do. Now, they have assumed powers in the past, like when they put through the federal interstate system. They just rolled over everybody and took whatever they needed or wanted to put that interstate highway system through. But that doesn't mean that they actually have any federal right of eminent domain. It just means that they assumed that right and got away with it because our government was not in session and was not enabled to protest.
Okay, and two more things. One, with regard to funding, liquidity, we keep saying we have this, or we will do this, or we will. How do you see that happening, and what kind of timeline are we talking about?
It's happening right now. The transfers and the account structures and things are being activated. So it will not be too much longer. And we know that for certain. Part of the thing is that we are the actual government. They're not. They've been using our assets and borrowing our credit without our knowledge or permission. And they've been able to get away with that because our government was not stood up and functioning. As soon as we stand up and say, oh, wait a minute, then all of the wheels start to turn in the opposite direction, and we regain control of the assets and the credit both. Because as I've often said, credit is based on assets, and the asset owner is also the owner of the credit. All right, so we're the asset owners. The people of the land and soil jurisdiction are the people of substance. We are the living, and we are the lawful persons attached to the living people. And as a result, everything that's physical, everything that's energetic, belongs to the living, not to the dead corporations, not to the persons. They've been interposing, they've been acting as middlemen and getting in the middle of everything and claiming to be our caretakers, our custodians, our managers, our employees, representatives of us, right? Well, you know, we also have the option of, as the presumed donors, to collapse the trust and act as the beneficiaries. So that's what we did. We said, okay, well, isn't that just charming? Our employees set up a trust for us, which they supposedly manage for us, but never ask us a thing about it. Never tell us that they did this. And as a matter of fact, as the presumed donors, we have the right to collapse the trust and act and possess and do all the things that we need or want to do with our own assets and our own credit. What an idea, huh? Well, so anyway, all of that is finally happening. And they have no money as a result, which is part of their desperation. And we are getting all of the money dumped back into our coffers, which is part of the rest of the result. And we're not entirely ready to be able to deploy all of this. So we're doing the best we can to set up the initial account structures and set up the original state account structures and get on with it.
Okay. I think, God, what a head full of information.
Hey, Robert,
Yeah.
we've already reached about 4 or 5 minutes. We're going to go ahead and
Yeah, well, it was important questions, and I'm sure I asked some questions that other people would have asked if they had the chance, but I just got to it first. Thank you. I yield.
You're welcome. You did great. All right. So I see John and Jeanette Scardina is next. John, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and change your name, please, because it's extremely disrespectful in this environment at this time, and I think that's something you shouldn't have done. So I'll allow you to do it since you put it up there. But you can go ahead and ask your questions, please.
I'm sorry, Anthony, are you violating Anna's free speech or my free speech?
I'm not violating anybody's free speech, but we've had a little bit of a decorum in the assembly by just showing our names and the counties and state that we're in, and you putting a cuss word in there, I think is just a little out of line.
Well, that wasn't my words.
And my words were not directed to you, Mr. Scardino.
Thank
And
you.
I
that's
don't
so rude.
appreciate, I
Take it
don't
down.
appreciate this. I
Well,
don't
well,
appreciate your attitude. I don't appreciate the things you said on Facebook, accusing me of not doing my fiduciary duty. Just what do you think my fiduciary duty is that I'm
well,
not
Anna,
doing?
yeah. So I'm not sure what your fiduciary duty is, but I have some questions I'd like to ask you.
Okay.
The first one is, so you admitted at first you denied you authored that email calling us all fucking bastards, and then you said you did, but it was only directed for Dominic and Cynthia. So I
I
was
did not.
wondering,
I did not. Let's make this clear. I did not author that to all of the North Carolina Assembly or all of the members at all. And that was clear within the context of the communication. That it was ever shared with you was Neethy's fault.
so my next question would be, how could that happen? I mean, that's a pretty big mistake. How can that happen?
It wasn't a mistake. I did it and I apologized.
So you're admitting that it was an intentional, deceptive thing that you did.
It wasn't deceptive. It was to put the truth out in front of everybody when everyone on this assembly does not see everything because everything is compartmentalized. And I apologize to Anna because she didn't intend for anyone else to see it.
And so you knew that, but you sent it to everyone.
Absolutely, I did. And I'm taking ownership of it. And I'll do it again. And I explained to her why I did it. And I
But
yield.
you
Do
didn't
not
say this is a copy. You sent it to us like it was for us.
I wanted everyone to see everything that was going on, and I will not talk anymore about it right now. This is ridiculous. What is the
Once
point,
again,
John?
The point is you
the
do it all
truth.
the time.
The point
Excuse
is the
me,
truth.
Donna. You don't even know what you're saying. You've never.
All right, okay. All right. Point of order. We're going to get back to it. John, continue.
you're muted.
Mute Monster, John. Mute Monster.
I'm sorry, I didn't mute myself. That was Anthony. So I was saying my point is the truth, first of all. My second question would be, Anna, so you're well aware of what's happened on our assembly over the past 6 months. So is it true that some other credible people like Lisa Schaefer and other people have advised you that the moderators and the host of your podcast are creating fake personas and they're creating fake questions and having fake conversations in the chat, and they're bringing these fake questions by these fake people before you on an international stage for you to answer? Are you aware that that's happening?
That
First
was
of all,
Lisa's expressed opinion in one case.
I can assure you, Anna, that is not the case. None of us have time, and we've made it perfectly clear that we haven't been doing that, and we wouldn't do that.
So, if Lisa had reason to think that in one case, and that was her opinion, it's her opinion.
So Anna, did you do any investigation at all? Did you go back and look at these podcasts and look at these questions? Did you do any investigation? Because someone's coming to you that I'm sorry, but they don't come much more credible and grounded than Lisa Schaefer. And she's telling you something. And did you do any kind of due diligence at all to check that out?
John, I don't have time to check out who's ghosting or gaslighting a podcast chat session. That's not my job. If that kind of thing is going on, it's going to be done, if that kind of an investigation is merited, and I can't imagine why it would be from a federation standpoint, it would be conducted by our IT and intelligence people. It would not be done by me. But what you're doing in your chats, whether you're being honest or not as people, whether you're acting like grown-ups with a podcast is really not my business or my job. Has nothing to do with me. It has entirely to do with your own integrity and your own assembly and the people that are doing the podcast.
I totally agree with you. It's so childish. It's pathetic. But I've watched it happen for months, months. And I have all the screenshots and I can prove it without question. So I don't know which one of the moderators is doing it, but one of Neethy's moderators is doing it and Neethy's working with them. And that's called fraud. And there is no way that anyone who commits fraud can possibly sit here and say she's truthful and she's never lied and she's being unjustly prosecuted and persecuted and denied her
John, I'm going to
speech.
ask you to provide that proof to me directly in email so I can review it. I'll be more than happy to go over it.
Get out of the
Anthony, I have
conversation.
the floor. I have the floor, Anthony, and you need to let.
Where's the proof?
Yeah.
May I suggest that even when you do something like a podcast, which is a brave enough thing to do, right? When you do something like that, you're not in control of what your moderators, you might not be aware of what your moderators are doing at any given time. I think it's a bridge too far to be blaming everybody and everything all the time. I think, if you become aware of a situation like that, then, why aren't you taking it back to your, John, you're muted again.
I can't imagine how that keeps happening. I just don't know because, no one would want to stifle someone's free speech. I understand what you're saying, Anna, but if you look at the facts and you look at what they've done, there's no way you can come to any other conclusion. You can't say it's organic and it's just someone else. They are all working together as a team. You can see it. The questions in the chat, they're having fake
So
conversations.
what?
It matters. So what? Who said that? I have the floor, thank you. Who said that?
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and point of order right now. We're going to go ahead and go on to the next person.
I'm not finished
John,
speaking, Anthony.
It's already been up 2 minutes. I will say that for the last several weeks and months, I myself been trying to figure out who actually has been doing it, and I've been doing some research.
I'm sure you have. You're having fake conversations with fake people, and you're
I'm
going
not having any fake
research.
conversations.
Enough. Listen, first of all, Anna, our podcast, all of this is madness. It's YouTube. It's YouTube, everybody. Secondly, if you think that any of us have time to do this, that's because you're retired and we're not. We work. We have full-time jobs and young children. Number three, the questions that we have on the show are helping people, and no one's complaining about the questions. They're actually learning something. And if they were that ridiculous, I don't know that Anna would keep logging in to come to the podcast. So enough.
I have a suggestion, John. If you have all this evidence and you're convinced that there's some sort of misrepresentation or fraud going on, or that there's some sort of evil plot to suppress free speech, go to your marshal at arms, go to your the coordinators, bring it forward within the leadership of the assembly and the members that are sponsoring the podcast, and saying, hey, look, what is this? Why is it that certain people can never get a question in the podcast? Is this being done on purpose? And who is this person? We never heard of them. You're shaking your head like, oh my God, she doesn't realize how crooked this is.
May I?
Yes.
What I was saying was it's international. It's not fraud within North Carolina. Our marshal at arms can't do anything about it, but it's fraud right under your nose that you're participating in. It's on the international stage, and it's something that should never happen. And it's happened for 6 months now, and I yield.
Well, if we have people that are coming in from an international basis and asking inappropriate questions, if we're in a forum like YouTube or, Steamgate or these various other forums that they can access, I really don't know how we could prevent international calls or international questions. Do you?
Anna, I have nothing else to say. If this is, I mean, no. The answer is no. I have no way of knowing how we can prevent people from calling in and making, international fraud, unless it's our own people, and it is. And there's facts and evidence, and I've got probably 200 screenshots that can prove it. But that's okay, because we don't really want to deal with something like that, because it doesn't go towards the narrative that North Carolina is improperly persecuting some poor innocent church lady who is just trying to be this sweet little thing, which is complete. It's complete BS. It's complete BS. So my last question to you would have to be: did you do any investigation before you wrote that international public notice? Where did you get the facts that you used to write that notice and blast North Carolina for being, so terrible?
I didn't blast North Carolina for being terrible. What I blasted North Carolina for was not having due process available to one of its members.
Where did you get the facts and evidence that we didn't afford due process?
That came out of a brief investigation by our IT team.
And so did they ask anyone? How did they determine that? How did they determine that we didn't afford Nethi due process?
Well, Nethi wasn't available and wasn't faced by her accusers. So that comes right down to that. Now, there are cases where people deliberately avoid facing their accusers, but there isn't anything substantive showing that Nethi did that.
So did they look at all the previous meetings that we had? And did they determine that we didn't give due process, that Nethi wasn't heard, that she wasn't in front of us for a long time talking and defending and trying to wiggle and deflect and all that she did? Did they watch those videos? This evidence for all of this. But it's like nobody wants to even look at it. But then there's judgments that are made that are unjust and they're wrong.
Oh God! Oh my God! I can't believe that this is going on in an assembly that is now what, 3 years old and populated by adults, and we are still having these kinds of problems. And part of my frustration with the leadership and the reason that those 3 people were named, I mean, I had Terry Sam, who was also part of that thread, but otherwise it was just a private thread to the leadership there, basically saying enough. This should have been over months ago. All this corporate finagling and backbiting and undermining, all this stuff should have gone away a long time ago. And the reason,
So now it has. Have you watched the video from Saturday to see the first meeting that these new coordinators came in and did after Nethi sent your email that was not meant for everyone to everyone? And then did you watch the video at least? Did you at least take a minute to see how these new coordinators were doing? What's their attitude? What are they saying? And what are they conveying to the rest of the assembly? Did you do that?
Of course not. It's not my job. I don't have time. Think about it. I have an entire world that I'm dealing with. I have an entire banking system I'm dealing with. I'm not here to babysit. the North Carolina Assembly. Now, I came in as a third party, saw this horrible infighting and backbiting and gossiping and corporatist boardroom politics right there in open in front of everybody in an organization that is supposed to be standing for the American government in North Carolina. And the American government is the antithesis of all this. The American government doesn't do corporatist. We're not corporations, we're living people. We're not here to make a profit. We're here to help each other and defend each other's rights and each other's assets. It's a totally different game, a different thing. This should not be happening. That's why I called everybody a fucking bastard who was in the leadership positions doing this stupidity. Because it's like I can't get through to them that they're doing it wrong.
Thank you.
I want you all to self-govern. I want you all to be above party politics, to be above divisiveness, above pride. This is not about you as individuals and your own little, world of politics and power. It's not about profit. What's it about? It's about community. It's about caring for your fellow human being. It's about, having some regard for their welfare and their good name. I mean, what are we here for? Are we here to slander each other and call each other names and develop intrigues and noms de guerre and all this other bull? No. That's not what this government is about. It's not what it's ever been about. And so I'm trying to get people to come to their senses and realize that they're being their own worst enemy. If you read that notice, you'll say, get out of your own way. They're standing in their own way. They're preventing themselves from experiencing the freedom and the joy and the kindness that they're heir to. By all of this infighting, backbiting, slandering, finger pointing, internecine stuff that is just, it's rank. It's like a bad smell, okay? And it's coming from the North Carolina Assembly, and it's coming from both sides. It's not uniquely Dominic's fault or Cynthia's fault or Neethy's fault. It is an imbroglio that is being driven by a false indoctrination. It's being driven by assumptions that this is what you do. And this is not what you do. You're supposed to be treating each other with love and respect, with trust and kindness, as a community, as a brother, as a sister, as somebody that is worthy of respect. And when we make mistakes, we're supposed to just come out and say, okay, like I did today. Okay, I used some bad words, okay? Mea culpa. And then you're supposed to go, okay, she was pushed beyond any rational human limit. Okay, and let it go. You deserve better. Each person that's guilty of it deserves better.
Graham?
May I? My hand got bumped a few times because I have I'm right in the middle
You're
of
not
where
even
the
on
disaster
North
happened.
Carolina. I object.
So I'm living in North Carolina. I just bought 14 acres and I'm living in my camper. And I had to drive 5 miles to a Starlink that's been put here. I'm in the middle of the disaster. We've roads have been washed away. I'm sitting in front of a sign that says free food and water with nothing in front of it. FEMA just came and stole all of our supplies from our firehouse. And I'm not sure why there's such cruelty and meanness of people refusing to accept that I live on North Carolina. That's just really immature, hurtful, and it actually is an elucidation and a representation of the cruelty that is in this assembly that really needs to go away. We need to raise the frequency here and see each other, just as Anna said, as brothers and sisters. We are in a hardship. I have heard stories of bodies being found in trees down the river, okay? This is an awful situation. We have no water, no electric, and someone is saying that I cannot speak and they object. When I'm living through a disaster, I'm helping my neighbors get water, okay? You people are so immature and so cruel. I cannot believe how devolved this assembly is compared to two others that I have lived on and served on and been appreciated for my service. I am in deep appreciation for these coordinators who stood forward in order to help us all bring our whole assembly and our state back into reasonable order to help the survivors of this awful hurricane that came through. I was underneath, it sounded like a 15-mile monster train. I was underneath it for 48 hours. The water was coming down like a bathtub was above me. I couldn't even get out of my camper without becoming completely soaked through with 2 raincoats to turn on my generator. Big deal. Okay, I survived. I have no driveway that is 1/4 mile long of a river. So I would appreciate if those of you who think that I don't have the right to speak, zip your mouths and allow those who are to speak now and stop with politics and all your personality contests. He did, she did this, and start appreciating the beautiful people that you have here, the talent that has walked away from this assembly because you cannot accept people with open arms because they're better than you at something. There's so much jealousy, crazy. Jeannot, who is a genius with computers, is now helping Global Family. You guys kicked him out of this assembly. Yeah, and a lot of other people have walked who have a lot of talent, and you really need to be accepting them, opening your arms, and we can start listing all the abilities that everyone has so we can start working together, helping each other. It makes no sense, this infighting, this cruelty, this meanness. Where is the love? What are we trying to create? A world of peace? A world of freedom? Or this inside fighting war? It's criminal. Please let us have a reset. Let us just begin again. And if anybody wants to see the deed on my land in North Carolina, email me. It'll be a little while because I don't have email. I don't have cell service up here on the freaking mountain, okay? This is where I live. This is where the disaster hit. I'm in it. I've received no help from the militia. Zero. I don't care what carts came up, what hills. I have nothing. No water, no food, no electricity, no roads. Think about it.
Rebecca.
And thanks for your kindness. I yield. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm sorry to hear that you've been through all that, and I'm glad to see that you are okay. Graham?
Just so that she knows, I did try to call her yesterday and locate her, and her voicemail is full. She could empty that out. But I did try to call her twice yesterday. Thank you.
May I? This is Greer.
Greer, we're going to go ahead and go to Graham first. If you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand, please.
Hello, everyone. I am, I guess you could consider fresh eyes. I'm fairly new. I represent Gen Z. I'm fairly young. I'm 24. Um, I have a couple comments before I have my main question. First one would be I wanted to show appreciation to Joe McDougall for the effort that he put in for assisting fellow Western and North Carolinians. In addition to that, I wanted to show appreciation for Anna putting up with what has been taking place at the moment. In addition to that, Anthony for maintaining and being consistent, helping people get their paperwork and making sure the main thing remains the main thing. And lastly, I wanted to echo the pastor that spoke earlier, Jay Duoiko. And I think that his main point was foregoing ego in this entire scenario. I would encourage everyone to not forget why you're here. You're fighting for my generation when it comes down to it, right? I don't even know why I'm getting emotional. I'm normally very put together, but the infighting has to stop. We have to forego ego, and if we don't, we're going to end up being no better than the people that we're opposing. That's the truth. And I think that one of this, and Anna spoke about it, when it comes to being prepared to take in positions. I think too many people in this assembly use this assembly as their identity. It's not going to work like that. You need to self-source your identity in order to be effective in this assembly. That's the truth of it. And I think that it is embarrassing for the infighting to be taking place, mature adults. I wouldn't work for people like that. I wouldn't entertain people like that. And this is not to contribute to the fire. I don't support ad hominem attacks. I think it's mature. And that goes on both sides. So maybe my fresh eyes that have not been caught up in this, call it a civil war, may be refreshing. But I would encourage everyone to not use this assembly as a place to source their identity. And remember why we're here. And remember that you're fighting for your children. You're fighting for my children, right? So with that being said, my main question was to Anna regarding, obviously, you spoke towards facilitating arrests and mitigating manipulation of 5G, and that there are certain requirements of personnel. And my main concern from a Switzerland neutral perspective would be making sure that we're not leveraging third parties to legitimize our bullshit, and making sure that we are moving authentically and executing. The Global Family Bank sends out emails in reference to frequency, and I really appreciate that. And the highest frequency is authenticity. And part of authenticity comes with execution. And I want to make sure that those things are in place, and the things that we speak about are not for pursuing our own hierarchy or for our own self-interest, but for the support of the organization as a whole. And I wanted to make sure that, everyone is getting the proper assistance. And I apologize if you hear background noise. I'm currently hosting people that are affected by the hurricane. So before I yield, again, appreciate Mr. Joe McDougall, Anthony, and Anna, and then Mr. Pastor Jay Duico for the effort and the thoughts so far. And my main sentiment is, guys, this is a reality check. I'm 24. I don't know shit. I'm not coming in here with ego. I'm here to learn. And it just really breaks my heart that people that are my senior are engaging in such a mature discourse. And it's on both sides. And it's not about being right. It's about putting the mission in front of everything and remembering why you're here. And with that, I'll yield.
Thank you.
Well, first you have to understand that the state assembly is responsible for everything in the state borders. Okay? Everything outside or in between the state borders is federation turf, international turf. And so, for example, when it comes to taking down or out 5G towers, or dealing with international smuggling of arms, and remember, same as international in our country. When it comes to counterfeiting, when it comes to human trafficking, those are the things that the Federation and its affiliates deal with. So when I say that we are taking down 5G towers that are set up to steer storms, we mean international forces. We don't mean the state assemblies. I don't know how many of you were aware of it, but I announced earlier that the state legislature has been fully informed regarding the genesis of this storm, and they now know and agree that it was actually an operation that was deliberately contracted with mercenaries and delivered. So the state legislature is on board with prosecution. Governor DeSantis in Florida has already said that he will arrest any member of FEMA that's caught obstructing any relief or evacuation order or effort. And the consensus is growing in the state organizations, as well as in our assemblies and in our federation of states, that this must be addressed as a crime. Okay? And so it's the criminal forces rather than the military forces that are being more specifically engaged. The anti-crime criminal forces, I should say, the police forces that are being engaged to apprehend, arrest, and take these guys out of operation. So it's more of a police action than a military action, although the military is engaged at, a distance with certain aspects. And so the state assemblies are not involved in that. And I didn't mean to imply that they were.
Thank you, Anna. With that, I'm going to call upon Dan Deischer. Sorry you dropped out there, buddy. I seem to have got you back in. Go ahead, and then we'll go from there to Kevin, to Karen, to Derek Barr, forward.
Thank you very much. A couple things. I'd spent day in and day out trying to get some things together, and it doesn't matter, because if we don't get together, none of it really matters. One thing I want to talk about real fast about the due process that nobody understands. That whole crap with Nethi, it went straight from a conversation straight to trial. It never went to the ombudsman. Why did it not go to the ombudsman? This is the concept of marshal at arms and the ombudsman. So that's the due process one that we skipped. And on the second note, I read about, and Anna, thank you, by the way, for everything you do. I read about 40 books before I found this assembly. I don't know how many people have done that, or if they just catch a whiff of something and they join the assembly. I read your Disclosure 101. I've read Something's Wrong When. I've read book after book after book. And now I came to join, and I found a new family, and you guys argue worse than my other family. I was so excited when I met Colleen Steele and Nancy Goldstein, and I thought I met my people. Well, they're a little bit more reserved than the rest of the people here, so they're very friendly. And I just want to also say, on that concept of reading 100 and 200 pages daily on most days, the publications and expectations of Anna and the information that I read never matches the frequency of the assembly. In every meeting, we start the thing with if ignorance concerns against Anna. Well, then this is absolute ignorance against Anna. And if we keep doing that and business as usual, will only exponentially multiply the lack of production. Therefore, on that note, I also move for an assembly reset. I yield.
Well, you know, I appreciate the sentiment and I share your frustration daily. Because I think I've spoken about our traditions and our customs and our law, and I've talked about our history, and I've talked about the great debate as to whether people can self-govern or not. I've described how self-governance begins with governing ourselves individually and then branches out to governing our families and our communities and our counties and our states. I think I've just about exhausted my lung capacity trying to very plainly, plain English, describe what we should be doing and how we should be doing it. And it's extremely frustrating for me to deal with people who keep acting on the corporatist model and who keep doing corporatist things, boardroom politics and all the rest of it, because it's not what we're supposed to be doing. And so I have begged both sides of the controversy for months to get it together, to forgive each other, to clear the decks, stop the infighting, stop the backbiting, stop the labeling, stop the gossiping, stop the whole corporatist thing. You know, when I finally lost my temper, I had multiple, and I do mean multiple, conversations about the need to heal this over, to evaluate what we did that was wrong, and to do it right from now on, you know, when things like this come up. And still, months later, I think the thing that really put me over the edge was Cynthia saying how she was going to personally put Nethi on another 2-week timeout.
Exactly.
Out of thin air. Anyway, this
Not out
isn't
of
the
thin
way
air.
it's supposed to be. It's just not the way it's supposed to be. And so, yes, I lost my temper, but it wasn't something that happened like that. It wasn't some sort of quicksilver moment. It was the long-term failure of the parties to let it go and start doing things in an adult and community-minded and fair-minded and even-handed way. You know, to start acting like the people in the community that you ultimately can be. And such you really need to be now. I mean, this disaster has put a fine point and a pressure bomb on everyone to, you know, set aside their personal differences and get on with life, get on with the job, get on with, you know, learning to self-govern, get on with helping each other, get on with envisioning your future. Start thinking about what you want, what you need, what your community needs, what your state needs. You know, don't worry about what Nethi says or what Cynthia says or, you know, what does Dominic think? These are our corporatist things. You know, it's very disappointing. It's very hard to deal with. And I've been dealing with it for months. And now we have this giant disaster. And even in the face of this giant disaster, which has left thousands of people dead in your state, and ruin billions of dollars of infrastructure, that we're still dealing with this petty little backbiting, politicking, power mongering bullshit. You know, I don't know what it takes. You know, 2x4 upside of the head. You know, how are these people, you know, just completely insane that they don't realize the immensity of the disaster that has just happened to you and your neighbors and your state? And they think they can still, you know, jury things around and you know, but I have faith in you. I have faith in you because you're Americans. I have faith in you because you are thinking, breathing people, and you are able to exercise your will and your talent and your ideas, and you can force this nonsense to come to an end of your own volition as a group. Okay? So I just hope that everyone here today what they can do and thinking about what they want. At the end of the day, it isn't about me and it isn't about what I want. It's a choice, just like love is a choice. When I was a girl, people had all these movies, you know, the Disney princess movies were a big thing back then. And you know, all of the same stories were the same. And you all grew up and you all got married and lived happily ever after, right? And I never believed that for a second. And it wasn't because my parents didn't have a happy marriage, they did. I just was too attuned to reality to think that, you know, some guy had a magic spell that was just going to make things wonderful for me. I knew I was going to have to make my life what I was going to make of it. And I think that the nanny state has encouraged people to think that the answer is government, but the answer isn't government, the answer is you. Each and every one of you. Because as you learn to self-govern, and as you put the principles of self-governance in action, then the rest of the story changes. You become the change. The change in you becomes the change. So when you stop thinking and acting as a corporatist and start thinking and acting as a living being who's interacting with other living beings, that's when the change happens. That's what's so important. It's when you are authentic and when you come together with other people in your common mutual best interest. That's when your government is expressed. And that's what I want for you. That's what I want for each and every one of you, including those who are fighting. I want them to come to their senses and realize that, hey, you're still acting on the old model. You're still doing the same ugly things to each other. Stop. And when I say stop, I'm not inferring any blame. I'm just calling upon somebody to be the bigger person and say, okay, I'm stopping. I'm not going to gossip about so-and-so anymore. I'm going to rise above it. I'm going to put it behind me. And I'm going to try this new paradigm. I'm going to try this new shift in my thinking. And I'm going to allow that change in my thinking to affect what I do.
Now, Anna, for the time, how much time do you have left? I don't know what your schedule is like for the rest of this evening. I'm trying to be mindful of it.
I know it's getting to be 10 o'clock there. Guys, I see Ian has already had a chance to speak. So let's take the three guys that haven't had a chance to speak. And today is Jim's birthday, so I am still planning on going to the hospital and bringing him a piece of cake. And so after that, I would like to excuse myself.
Okay. Before we have anybody else to speak, I'd like to say that I as a coordinator, I'd like to move for a reset. Mainly because we need to start over. There's a lot of things going on in this assembly that has caused a lot of people to possibly be in harm's way. Things like proper notices being sent out, they're not being sent out like they should. Just back and forth name calling, and we just got to stop all that. We got to start over.
This isn't appropriate to try and pull a vote right now. Everybody.
Thank you. Does any other coordinator like to go ahead, Anna? I see you raise your hand.
Yeah, he's right. It is inappropriate at this point because you're not acting as an assembly, you're acting as a committee of the whole. And, you know, at some point you'll come back together as an assembly and you'll sort things out. But right now, it doesn't matter what went on in the past. What matters right now is the disaster and how you're going to pull together as a statewide community of Americans and face it together.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Kevin, I see you've been waiting patiently there, buddy. You can go ahead.
Hi there. Thank you very much for having me. Miss Anna, it is an extreme honor and privilege to finally meet you. I remember your articles from the 90s.
Oh, wow.
What you have created here with this movement is nothing less than a phenomenon. And it's something I don't think I'll ever see ever again in my life. Truly, truly amazing. And a thank you is simply not enough. I've been a building contractor all of my life. I'm now in the equipment business. I've only been around for a month or so, and I see just a lack of professionalism on both sides of these conflicts. And it seems to just compound on itself. I see a lack of the golden rule. I'll give you a prime example, and I'm not trying to rehash the last few days, but just an example of how these things get started, and no one stops to think about the golden rule or to think about patience, peace, kindness, and joy. It seemed that in this last circumstance that, our existing coordinator was not briefed before that email went out about the new coordinators. So in turn, that coordinator sends out a note that says, well, if there's a meeting, there's going to be disciplinary action. Well, then when you read the email that was, you read the email that was sent out, and the email doesn't say additional coordinators. If it had, there wouldn't have been an uproar in the assembly. If it had, the word additional coordinators would have meant everything in the world, but the additional was left out of that notice. And then, of course, inappropriately, your private message, and I use a lot of 4-letter words myself, back of house to get things done. I understand. But that message was inappropriately attached to that email. So then, of course, blood pressure went up again. And then so the meeting occurs by this new set of coordinators you've picked. And, during the meeting, we're cut off. And then one of those coordinators you pick checks out of that meeting early. and then the meeting is cut off short. I then started to ask, did that email, note in that email really come from you? Was it really from you to us? And now we find out it wasn't. So every now and then, even a blind squirrel gets a nut. You know, every now and then I get one right.
Hey, Kevin.
Yep.
Yeah, Anna has her hand raised. Go ahead, Anna.
I just wanted to correct a thought here. I did not choose these new coordinators. These new coordinators stepped up as volunteers to help their state. So
thank you.
It's not, you know, it's not like I'm picking and choosing.
Okay, thank you. If you play the recording of the meeting, they actually said that you came to them. And so, you know, we can add that into
That
the
is
list
absolutely untrue.
It's
Stop.
not. Play the recording.
We have the
ma'am.
recording,
I
Kevin.
have it too.
I'll send
I have
her
it
the
too.
transcript. I have it.
Please,
no problem.
and if I'm
You're not wrong.
We have the transcript. We'll send it to Anna.
So do we.
Anyway, certain things are being miscommunicated, whether deliberately or by accident, one way or another. The communication is bad. That's what I'm hearing. Right, Kevin? Yeah, you're muted. Could I get Kevin unmuted here? I can't hear him.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, they had me muted. And again, I didn't know anyone. There's no personal connection for me to the assembly. I'm a Raleigh businessman. I have been associated with some of the people here for only a month or two. And if this chaos continues, I'm not sure I want to continue. And it's the lack of professionalism, you know, that seems to be the problem. And so, and then and the reason I'm listening to these things is there's so many points that someone could have stepped in and said, let's get on track, let's get on track, let's get on track, let's self-correct, and it just never happened. And so then I think I got 3 or 4 or 5 other emails that talked about the disaster in the western part of the state as if it was the local bake sale at the high school. And so, you know, we're dealing with some folks here on both sides. I'm not naming particular names that they seem to lack the basic interpersonal skills, and meeting skills and common sense. And it's just a lack of professionalism. And I'll make two more really quick points. You know, I did provide one of those coordinators with a list of 12, I think it was about a dozen of my friends and colleagues, 2 of which have the largest companies on the East Coast. And after I found out that what they were doing was separate from the assembly, I reached out to say, would you please do not send them any more invitations? I would like to see them be introduced through the newcomers meeting at the assembly, the official assembly. I was told then that they didn't have time, and I needed to reach back out to each of my people and ask them to just ignore those those invitations, those invitations from them. I thought that was very unprofessional. And the minute I hung up the phone, I thought that's not the golden rule. They'll never get another referral from me. I'll make one more very fast point. I had a business owner who's been very well established, not far from me, that I invited to a webinar. And one of the coordinators was very rude to her. And when I checked in with her later, she said, my friend said to me, she said, if that is the North Carolina Assembly, I don't want anything to do with it. And I said, and I apologized to her. I said, this is my fault. I apologize. I said, what this person is doing one of your coordinators. I said, it has nothing to do with the North Carolina Assembly. I didn't know any better, and I apologized. And it was very embarrassing. And I can only hope and pray that the 3 or 4 or 5 emails that we got about this emergency meeting that looks like something an 8th grader would put together did not go out to the newcomers list, that dozen people more or less that I had given to our existing one coordinator, Dominic. And so, yeah, very big turnoff. And I'll just say one more thing. One of the coordinators that's here tonight simply could have said to the assembly on this meeting, she simply could have said, I shouldn't have sent the note and I apologize to everyone. And that would, I think, been the end of it. She said, well, I apologize to Anna and that's enough. And I don't want to hear more about it. That's a red flag for choosing people for leadership positions, but I know that we're very limited and we're all volunteers, and I don't blame you a bit. Quite frankly, I hope when I'm your age, I have half of the state of mind and half of the energy that you do. God bless you, and thank you for everything you've done. And with that, I yield.
Thank you, Kevin. I think that, yeah, we do suffer from various misunderstandings, miscommunications, and to some extent, continued backbiting and nastiness. One of the things for me is that I don't choose the coordinators. The coordinators stand as volunteers, and they bring with them their baggage, their skills, their opinions, their indoctrination, and everything else. And, you know, as I said, going forward, we'll have a sessions committee, and by then you'll be familiar with each other, and you'll know who should be a good coordinator and who shouldn't. We recently had a big dust up in Texas where we had to remove a coordinator or 2 coordinators who weren't getting the idea of our government and our customs and values, and who were doing the corporatist thing again, the same problem. It's not unique to North Carolina. And, you know, at every point, every time this happens, we find people that are oppressing and disrespecting the rights of others, and who are playing corporate politics where in a space where it should never occur. Okay, so North Carolina is not unique, and this is a problem that we have in several assemblies, and we just get tired of dealing with it, because people need to leave their indoctrination behind. They need to leave it at the door like an old coat, and learn and embrace a whole new way of dealing with each other and doing things. And, you know, that's the best way I can think of to explain it.
Karen, you can go ahead.
Thank you, guys. Anna, I've got faith this assembly can do it. And so let's wrap it up. I'm a survivor of the 9-month persecution from Dominic Battistella and Cynthia Pinkston. I don't know many of you because I've been silenced for the last 9 months. My freedom of speech has been violated. I was not given due process, even going through the ombudsman and dealing with the elders. But beyond that, I'm still here, I'm still standing, and I still have faith in this assembly. There's a lot of people with a lot of talents here, and you're right, Kevin, they're unprofessional. But we can counsel, we can train, and we're not going to do what I believe Ross Henderson said when he gave a very good lesson the other day on cancel culture, where when somebody messes up, we throw them to the curb and we don't, we kick them out of the family. Let's not do that anymore. I have faith in you guys. We need to bring the past forward and we need to correct it, because when we do that, then we learn how to self-govern ourselves. And I've learned so much through this 9 months of persecution. I learned so much by being involved in this assembly. And let's take a moment to go back to the Hurricane Helene and the disaster efforts. You saw Rebecca Roberts tonight and how much stress she's been under. She's really lived the nightmare, as well as several of you in here. Communication itself has been a very large hurdle. And just wanted to give a quick update. The militia is building partnerships with other groups to do the heavy lifting and that have experience in this. There are connections made with people inside and outside of the disaster area. Some of those people are here tonight and some of them are not. I want to thank each one of you for all the tireless hours that you have invested in this. And there has been numerous conversations back and forth with broken cell phones, signals. It has been very tough. But on a word of positive note, there are wagon trains being created because we know this is a long-term recovery. There'll be multiple collection sites. I encourage you to reach out to Joe McDougall, or you can reach out to me. I'll put my number in the chat. There will be transfer hubs where we can transfer the needs that are needed at that time for the victims. There are boots on the ground, and you heard one of them tonight. She's tired and exhausted. So say a prayer for these people that are on the front lines that are seeing these just horrendous things. And then last but not least, I am asking God for the mobile command system that we need. We can pull these resources together. We have a lot of people that are willing to donate money. We need the gateway for North Carolina so that those radio systems will work. And there will be people that donate for this relief. So in conclusion tonight, I ask for a complete and total reset for North Carolina. We must be professional. We must build on a solid foundation. We bring forward the past, we correct our actions, and we move onward, because that's what we do. And we are, each and every one of us, North Carolinians, and we're behind you. With that, I yield.
One of the first things that came through my mind, Karen, when this disaster hit was, where's their assembly militia? You know, why was the assembly militia just disbanded offhand? You know, at this moment when they're so desperately needed. And, you know, it's basically been a matter of repeated shots in the foot all the way around. Because it's like Jesus said, you know, can you tear out your eye without hurting yourself? You know, can you stub your toe without hurting yourself? We have to stop hurting ourselves. We have to think of our assembly as one body. You know, you got heads, arms, toes, right? You have a militia. You can't hurt the militia without hurting the assembly. You can't hurt the drill assembly without hurting the whole assembly and the entire membership. So I'm hoping that out of this bitter experience, there'll be a renewed appreciation for and understanding of the importance of the militia. Some people are afraid of the militia because of all the propaganda that has made militia synonymous with a bunch of whack jobs, you know. But the truth is that the militia represents the most responsible and self-responsible aspect of our drill assemblies. And I say drill assemblies as you know, because the legal aspect of our assembly.
May I answer that question for you, Anna?
Sure.
Our militia, I started at Charlotte. Everyone west of Charlotte, I made a call, either me, Mary Van Gorp, John Scardina, we made a call to everyone in that affected area to make sure that they were safe. I did not stop until everyone had been contacted and made sure that they were safe. Then I transitioned into supplies. That's where the militia was. I yield.
I meant in terms of why was it disbanded? You know, I can't see how some of these things that have happened here make any sense.
That was before me.
Right. And so I think the thing here is a lesson, a hard lesson learned, that if you want the militia to be there to support you, you have to support the militia. And it's miraculous what you've managed to accomplish despite everything that's happened in the past. But, you know, there has to be this understanding that we're all dependent on each other, and that we're all working together. Okay? And there's no other way. There's no corporatist answer that will work. So we have to band ourselves and commit ourselves. We have to make that decision to truly love and care about the other people in our state, even those that we disagree with. We still have to offer them the consideration and respect and compassion that we want back in return.
Yes.
And I'm sincerely sorry, Joe, that you ever thought, even for a minute, that I was talking to you and that I was ungrateful for your service, or that I was reprimanding you, because I certainly was not.
With Dominique, even on vacation, we conversed. Everyone knew exactly what was going on because emails were sent out. They really were. So
okay.
I appreciate you. Time, I yield.
Derek, go ahead.
Is it my turn?
Yes, sir. Go for it, Derek.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm Derek. I'm new. I've kind of been in the backdrop for a while. Very eager to be a part of this and further move forward with everything. I just want to say that it is going to be hard to follow up Anna's wisdom, her message, and from our youngest member, Graham from Charlotte. Very hard to follow those up, but I just wanted to say thank you for pointing out all the positives. That's mainly what we're here for. We're here for the people. We're here for ourselves. We're here to make sure that we send this message. I just want to be clear. I'm here to do work. I am out away from my family. I cannot even help in North Carolina for the people, but I have to do something. I've been studying alongside with sharing knowledge, and I would just ask that everyone come together, because all the older folk here, the OGs, I respect you. I've gotten several amounts of counseling from, Cynthia, Mary Van Gorp, Nancy doing the paperwork. I mean, I can't express my gratitude enough, but one of the biggest things is I'm away from my family right now because of all this stuff in assembly. I need, as well as people need me, and I need y'all, and we need to work together. The OGs, really, I understand you know a lot, but we have to understand that we need the information from you, but you have to receive the information from us so we can work together in all these matters. The main focus is not the bickering that's going on right now. It's pretty much the cause of why I'm away from my family right now, working in this situation. I am in a great position, making a handsome paycheck, but it's nothing to me. It means nothing more than what we need to be doing for the people. And I do want to put forth as much effort that I have in life already to get where I'm at in this de facto system as I need to be in the de jure. I need to be every bit of what we embody and what we our intention is to do, but I'm not seeing our intention matching our action, and it's really slowed me down. And when I see us start coming together, you're going to start seeing a lot more of me everywhere. I'm going to be putting my foot forward, and my brain is going to be SpongeBob, soaking up everything I need to soak up for the people. That's why I'm here. I have sacrificed myself. I've been in shame just to learn things. I learned things the hard way, and I just want to let y'all know I am here for y'all. I want to see us come together. I need to come back to my land, North Carolina, and I need to work with my people. You are my people. I am your people. We need to do this all together. There's nothing more than I need to do than to get away from where I'm at right now. The biggest thing is I'm a very straightforward person, but age is becoming a thing. We need to get as much knowledge as we can from the people who have experienced these lives and this knowledge, and we need it passed down to us, as well as while you're still here and while you're still valued, and before you ever step down, we need to converse as much as possible. So with that, all I'm saying is we're all distracted. We are all distracted here. The government and all its contracts that has completely overridden our lives, we're still programmed by it. There's still pieces of it lingering in our being, and we need to get rid of that. The only way to do that is to come together. I'm a foreman out here. I have people's lives in my hand on live contracts every single day. I have to be 100% accountable for myself and 100% accountable for the men that are underneath me, and I don't see them as underneath me. I am a worker. I am a laborer. I am not a foreman, but I have to be, because that's what I am. That's what I'm paid to do, because I'm out here because I need our assemblies to come together so I can come back to y'all. We are all better as together than we are separated. But the main thing is thank you everyone for everything that you've done. Everybody knows who has spoken to me, your efforts that you have helped me with. It hasn't gone unnoticed, and it has not gone to waste. I am here. I'm not going nowhere. I am a fixer. I accept every single challenge. I don't care if I bloody my knuckles doing it, but I am here, and I want everyone to know their position and use that strength. We're not going to do this by putting people where we think they need to go. We need to accept the positions that we are good at, because that is the strengths of how this works. We need to be there for each other. Never mind all the bickering. The opinions can stay inside your head. Please come together and work together. That's literally all we need to do. It is that simple. All these messages, especially from Miss Scaff, thank you very much for expressing those. Miss Rebecca, stay strong, please, and all the people that are exposed to the disasters, stay strong. We will be doing what we need to do, but let all this stuff go. Let's come together. Please etch and sketch all this. And with that, I yield.
Thank you, Derek. We highly appreciate those
May
words.
I speak?
We're not gonna have any more speaking or questions at this time. It's getting late.
My right to speak. I have my right to speak.
Anna has already made it.
Don't tell me you're going to make it go all the way to the end and say I can't speak.
Anna had already said prior to you that we're going to end with the last 2 or 3 people that are left, so that she may go attend the things that she needs to attend.
I'm sorry.
Well, that's
I
fine.
do
May I
have to go.
speak? May I speak?
If you were waiting for the last people to get over, you didn't get to the end of the line, Anthony.
I do want to say something before I go, other than to apologize for losing my temper with the leadership of the North Carolina Assembly as it was presenting itself on both sides, is to remember something that Ben Franklin famously said. He said, if we don't all hang together, we will most assuredly hang separately. Now, I'm not implying that we're in the same situation that the revolutionaries were. we don't need to live in fear of the British King. At this point, the British King has a lot to answer to us. However, there is a necessity for us to act together, to care about each other, and to form a self-governing, beautiful community. And in North Carolina, things have kind of come push to shove as a result of this disaster. As we move forward and as the recovery builds and as more things get straightened out and the chaos subsides, you'll all begin to feel better and to see the ways forward that are kind of dark and cloudy right now. I would ask you personally, me to you, please make the effort to identify the members like Rebecca who are in situations where they are really suffering, and do what you can to help them first. And then, start dealing with community issues and with the work that is set before you as the committee of the whole. And please do your very, very best to not bicker, not backbite, not label, not infight. This has to end. Okay, folks, it's my husband's birthday. He's 82 years old today. He's in the hospital still. And so I'm going to pack myself up and I'm going to drive over to the hospital and bring him a piece of chocolate birthday cake.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Anna. Happy birthday, James.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Anna.
everybody.
Thank
Love
you,
you.
Anna.
I'm sorry if I didn't get to everyone. I'm not meaning to deprive anyone of their say-so. It's late here and I know it's later there, and I need to get there before visiting hours end.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night. Thank you.
Neethi.
Good night. God bless.
Good night.
God bless you.
Good night.
Neethi. This is Robert.
Hey, Robert.
Do you have an idea how long it'll be before this link is ready to, can you pass it out to everybody? So we can share it with the people that we talk to?
I share everything, so it'll be
Okay.
out.
Will it be like tomorrow morning or this evening or?
I don't know. It's late. It's 10:30.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
It'll go out, Robert. Don't worry.
Y'all have a great